3 decades had elapsed since the emergence of the creatures, yet those blessed with extraordinary abilities had rendered them harmless to mankind, thus spawning a fresh global competition, a professional hunters association, where our protagonist, Cole Phillips, had achieved legendary status as a competitor. Nevertheless, following his lackluster showing during the summer tournament and his failure to advance to the championship rounds, all his accomplishments and dedication vanished instantly, destroyed by merely these 2 unsuccessful campaigns. Cole angrily hurled his phone to the ground after reading all the harsh criticisms from supporters, while his agent informed him that this campaign would likely mark the end of our protagonist's career. The organization's leader demanded Cole's resignation. Additionally, there remained the matter of his mandatory military duty, though it would have been preferable if they had simply dismissed him from the squad. The protagonist would be dishonest if he claimed never to have considered departing. Cole would inevitably age, and his abilities would deteriorate. It seemed unbelievable that they suggested he become a figurehead for the organization, particularly when he had single-handedly secured triumph. The protagonist couldn't contain his frustration and flipped the table violently. Cole moved toward the exit, declaring he wouldn't continue listening to his representative. The individual became furious, branding him an unappreciative fool who should demonstrate some courtesy. The agent yelled that this explained Cole's terrible reputation. There had been no need to invest effort in developing such a worthless individual. The protagonist felt as though a blade had pierced his spine. He immediately spun around and seized the man by his collar. The representative hadn't elevated him. He had grown so comfortable in his position that he'd forgotten who had brought him there. If only he hadn't convinced Cole to unlock his complete potential during his school years. The agent, gasping for air, claimed he had acted in the protagonist's best interests. Cole released his grip and shoved him back into the seat. Everything had happened because of this man, yet violence wouldn't alter anything. Cole felt completely worthless. He had grasped numerous championships, but everything had concluded in this manner. All his abilities and elite-level talents were utterly beneficial. What remained was merely a deteriorating physique and capability, which had been prematurely sealed. Complete awakening prevents further progression. Did any purpose exist to continue living? Cole could no longer perceive him. These statements became decisive. While crossing the street, he observed only the brilliant headlights of the vehicle. An instant collision, agony, crimson, shouts. No, this wasn't reality. He desired to continue attempting. Cole wished to hear the audience cheering his name once more. He longed to deliver an incredible display on that stage, which made his pulse race faster, and emerge victorious alongside his squad with dignity. This remained the final memory the protagonist could recall from his previous existence. Temporal displacement. Everyone had at least once fantasized about this concept. People perpetually regret something. Therefore, it's natural for them to yearn to return to earlier times. Typically, this remains merely imagination, however. When Cole opened his eyes, he understood that he had returned to the day his career commenced. The examination results had been received. The physician requested a moment's patience. He offered congratulations to the protagonist's mother. Cole had truly awakened. A woman couldn't comprehend what she witnessed, and her son was more inclined to summon her home. During their journey, his mother advised him against considering anything foolish, like pursuing hunting. She explained that becoming one was extremely challenging, and the hunters on television represented the elite competitors of their division. They were exceptional. He would have liked to inform his mother that he had arrived from the future, where he had been a legendary competitor in the Hunter Association, but she wouldn't accept it. Consequently, Cole declared he would demonstrate his worth. Mother struck him following these statements. She wanted him to concentrate on his education for the upcoming high school year. Cole would validate her faith. Let's observe what the legendary hunter could accomplish, having returned to the past. Condition represents a temporary state, while talent endures eternally. The hunter evaluation employs cutting-edge technology for analyzing potential physical attributes. Nevertheless, there exists one element that the assessment cannot measure: abilities. Typically, awakened individuals can only speculate about their powers and their application. Yet not Cole, for he possessed an omniscient vision that discerned the true nature of targets. As anticipated, the complete awakening, which unlocked extraordinary talents, reverted to rank E. Skill levels could be enhanced. Cole could always regain his former prowess. What mattered more to him now was adapting to his current physique and capabilities, a rather pitiful reflection in the mirror. Suddenly, he overheard his mother declaring that they should monitor him for a year. Father believed his son should live according to his wishes and deserved a year's opportunity, but his mother couldn't permit him to act autonomously. She maintained that at Cole's age, even 1 year held significance and couldn't be squandered chasing an impossible dream. Indeed, the protagonist's mother was completely opposed to him becoming a hunter, yet disputing with her proved futile. Suddenly, she exclaimed that so much could transform in 12 months. She was correct. Within a year, competitors could participate in dozens of battles. They accumulated experience and refined their abilities with each encounter. In Cole's former existence, the complete awakening would have been rank B if he had begun 1 year sooner. This alone could dramatically influence the sequence of events. The protagonist approached his parents and stated he didn't require a full year. Allow them to grant him merely 6 months, and he would prove his worth. Cole subsequently visited a specialized training facility but couldn't gain entry. The receptionist explained that minors required guardian authorization. The protagonist had completely forgotten this requirement, since in his past life he had been an adult. He wouldn't be able to train if he returned home. Cole began considering whether another method existed when suddenly someone tapped his shoulder and greeted him. This was Derek Clarks. In his previous life, he had been a close combat specialist who consistently achieved second or third position in the Premier Division. He never claimed first position, yet was frequently compared with elite competitors. Honestly, it had been effortless for him. But naturally, in this existence, Cole shouldn't recognize his identity, therefore he pretended ignorance. Derek began explaining that he attended a parallel class and at school was known as an awakened individual. To provoke him, Cole claimed he was hearing about him for the first time. Well, the individual smiled. This also occurred, he inquired what our protagonist was doing there. Cole responded that he wanted to utilize the training facility, but was informed that parental permission was necessary. Derek mentioned that he was a member of the Academy's junior organization and possessed unrestricted access. So at this point, he had already joined the group. But in exchange, the individual wanted to observe Cole's training. Well, nothing comes without cost. This was somewhat irritating, but the protagonist had nothing to lose, so he consented. Well, the receptionist reserved a facility for him, and Derek, an organization member, served as guardian. In the changing area, Derek mentioned that he hadn't expected anyone else at school would want to become a hunter. This concerned Cole. Derek belonged to the Academy organization, but since most members were older, he didn't know anyone and found it difficult to join teams. So Cole wouldn't be chosen. Nobody utilized this location for training since everyone was preparing to join the Hunter Association. Regardless, the protagonist simply intended to test his abilities and perform several exercises. Derek offered assistance since they attended the same school. Yes, even in this life he sought to attract attention. Considering his past life, Cole was decades older than him. The protagonist definitely wouldn't request his help. On the training ground, the protagonist completed all configurations to summon the armored dummy. Comparing it to video games, it would resemble a type of practice target. The only distinction was that this represented such a formidable opponent that escape from cover was nearly impossible. Derek thought that Cole had misconfigured something, since it was necessary to summon an ordinary dummy for practice. Even in training mode, accomplishing anything with the protagonist's current level would be extremely difficult. But Cole took the blade and simply stated that the punching bag should be sturdy. Derek attempted to somehow caution the protagonist, but allowed him to speak for himself. How does one destroy something solid and durable? The simplest method is to strike it with something even harder and stronger. Obviously, Cole couldn't accomplish this currently, but this didn't mean he lacked other alternatives. One needed to target the dummy's joints. Having done this, the protagonist felt he had perfect control over his body, and now omniscient vision. Thanks to this, one could perceive the dummy's weaknesses. Cole struck them and succeeded without any difficulty. He hadn't expected everything would proceed so smoothly. It deserved recording. Derek said that was impressive. He thought that our protagonist had set minimal defense for the dummy. Otherwise, it would require a unique weapon to inflict even minimal damage. Perhaps Derek was distorting what he witnessed because he couldn't believe it. Nevertheless, Cole's movements were remarkable. He would have passed the Academy selection. Derek thought he had studied blade or spear combat. He also wanted to attempt this before their team's training commenced. Cole didn't need to explain anything to him. Derek would observe everything when he tried. Later, the individual swore he had done the same. He had also configured the dummy with minimal protection, yet still the target received no damage. Derek thought he must have configured something incorrectly. The senior observed him and asked if Derek wanted to acknowledge him. An individual named Sean inquired why he was battling an armored dummy. Derek replied that he simply wanted to warm up and practice briefly. Sean laughed. Who battles an armored dummy for warming up? He told Derek not to be foolish, as he wouldn't be able to inflict damage even at low settings. Meanwhile, Cole traveled home and thought that he was excessively weak. The Universal Training Center offered basic equipment for hunter preparation. After Derek departed, Cole had the opportunity to battle the creatures he had encountered in the Hunter Association and utilize the holographic function with artificial intelligence. It served as a sparring partner. The protagonist concluded that he was excessively weak. His omniscient vision was only 8th rank, so he couldn't deliver a powerful strike. Cole's physical characteristics only slightly exceeded an ordinary person's data. He needed to develop his body to become stronger. At minimum, the complete awakening accelerated recovery. This could only be achieved through training, but time was limited. In the evening, the training facility was available only for organization members, and he couldn't obtain parental permission every time he wanted to train. He needed to find a location where he could train alone. While Cole was searching online, Derek contacted him. The individual asked if our protagonist would come to train. He promised to provide dinner. Cole went to a secluded establishment, and Derek immediately summoned him. This individual seemed to possess considerable wealth. Derek said that in reality there was excessive amounts. As everyone understood, becoming a hunter was impossible if you came from a poor family. The awakening test and weapons were very expensive. But even so, excessive wealth was somewhat arrogant. Derek was the same as in his past life. He always did everything to be in the spotlight. Cole was certain that this individual was treating him to dinner, not because he couldn't afford it, so he asked what the reason was. Derek replied that the protagonist was correct. Dinner was merely a pretext. He wanted to ask something. Cole suggested that this concerned the armored dummy. Derek tried to do exactly like him, but nothing worked. He was curious whether our protagonist had configured something, but the conversation was interrupted when they noticed someone. Individuals with the same uniform as Derek entered the restaurant. Perhaps these were his teammates. They discussed how Derek tried to defeat the armored dummy with a sword and how useless and pathetic it was. Sean asked why, and it turned out that Derek was imitating another. Probably it was worth asking if his friend shot laser beams. Sean mocked this fool as he called Derek. It turned out that this individual had disturbed him while he trained diligently. Cole couldn't leave it like that. He loudly answered the question about the settings, saying that there was no need to change anything. And this was simple if you knew the trick. But it's good that Derek was trying to figure it out, because there are many idiots who claim that this is impossible, so they are simply unable to do this. Cole asked if no one knew this at the academy, and are they enrolling there for money? Derek begged him not to speak like that. Sean went to the table, put his foot on a chair, and asked who our protagonist imagined himself to be, that he was disrespecting the academy student. The individual gave Cole 3 seconds to apologize until he broke the awakened's bones. These phrases were just like a cliché from a movie, and the protagonist was anticipating this free dinner. Cole rose abruptly and struck Sean with his palm in his face. If someone gives the protagonist 3 seconds, that's what he will do. The company clearly didn't expect this. Cole will never miss the opportunity to strike first. For Derek, Sean was the senior, and for our protagonist, simply a stranger, so let him not approach him. The individual was seriously angry and tried to hit in response, but that was all. Sean earlier said that there would be little left from Cole if he hit him. That's exactly what if. The individual tried to hit again, but instead received another fist in the face. Sean said that now Cole was really finished. It seems that now the individual will use his superpowers. The omniscient vision warns the protagonist about danger. Sean uses a gravitational attack. It's good that Cole has a quick reaction. It's unimaginable that he uses such a skill in a place where there are ordinary people, but Sean became simply uncontrollable, circling everything around him. Cole wasn't going to be too cruel, but now Sean was a corpse. The protagonist could evade his skill thanks to the omniscient vision, but couldn't reduce the distance. Well, okay. Cole lifted a plate from the floor and threw it at Sean's face, but the individual, with the help of his ability, was able to stop the plate in the air. He mocked, asking did Cole think that it would work against him, but while Sean said this, a plate with soup flew into his head. After using the skill, you need to wait for some time to use it again. This is called a cooldown. The plates flew to Sean one after another. He in a panic understands that he cannot use his skill. If you use the skill without thinking about its restoration, you will be completely open to enemy attacks. When Sean was staggering from numerous strikes, he found that Cole had disappeared somewhere. The protagonist shouted the word head, and he sharply hit his stomach. Then Cole screamed the same thing. Sean wonders where he will hit now, but this time, as said, the protagonist hit his face. Sean fell to the floor and was followed by numerous blows. Finally, everything ended, but now it's not Cole that arranged a riot here, but the protagonist really hit first. Sean is the only one lying on Earth and on our protagonist, not a scratch. Derek and friends of this individual left. We must quickly decide what to do. Damn. At that moment, Cole heard the police siren outside the window. It seems there is no other choice. He scratched his face, making wounds. Then he doused Sean with water to bring him to his senses, and he himself lay on the floor, putting the individual from above and depicting the victim. When Sean came to his senses a little, he wanted to hit the protagonist with anger, but he was prevented by the cries of Derek, who pointed to the policeman to a fight. Seeing how our protagonist was beaten, the patrol directed the gun and ordered Sean not to resist. It seems that Cole managed to deceive the police with his performance, so there will be no consequences for him. Sean, most likely, will also not tell the truth, because he doesn't want to admit that the newcomer defeated him. Even if he says that he used his skill, this will in any case become an aggravating circumstance. Later, Derek said that Sean had a hard time. He received a beating from other team members and may be excluded. It seems that justice has triumphed. Derek asked if our protagonist was going to take a break, but Cole replied that he had no time for this while setting up the armored dummy. The complete awakening gives him awakened talent when he achieves special success. In other words, the protagonist receives a new skill. Cole's shouts hit the dummy clearly in the head. An awakened talent with the name named attacks appeared. When he pronounces the name of the skill or indicates the place of his blow, the force increases. Words may not coincide with the action. Cole didn't expect that what happened with Sean could be considered a special achievement. In his past life, he never saw this skill. The perfect skill to make people think that the protagonist is strange. At dinner, Cole told his parents that he was going to try out for the survival show for Hunters. He wants to show parents what he is capable of. Hunters, the Next Generation, is a television show dedicated to the search and mentoring of beginner hunters. Mom thinks that since this is a television show, then the competition will be too big. Father specified that it's impossible to succeed, if not risk. She reminded her husband how he ruined his business, not quite because he took a chance. If Cole wins the competition, he will get a place at the academy, or will be able to join the team of the 3rd Division. In addition, the monetary prize is huge. They will even make him a weapon to order. Mom held her head. The protagonist said with confidence that he was going to give his all. Mom agreed, but asked not to come crying if he loses. This show is definitely fierce competition. After all, they choose the most promising candidate for the Hunter Association from all over the country. But because of this, there are significant incentives for the best participants, even if they are not in first place. Be that as it may, they choose only the best. Let Mom and Dad not worry. In his hands, Cole held a bunch of trophies, and he wouldn't lose to amateurs. The judges of the television show gathered together for discussion. Soon, they will begin to receive applications. Linda Jones remembered how a colleague said that Michael had no desire to become a judge. But something made him change his mind. Despite success, it seemed to him that he didn't pay enough attention to his homeland. He hopes that among the contestants, a gem is hiding. Judge Bill laughed, saying that this would definitely be in the pro. The Academy always cares about attracting new talents. But this is the whole problem. These are eccentric people who can really succeed with proper upbringing. Linda inserted that these children need someone who takes care of them, not a league. Some judges already have their own favorites, for example, Ethan. The description of the show says that they are looking for the next star, which will take responsibility for the future of the Hunter Association. Cole thought that it sounds tempting and all that, but the first stage is a written test. It is necessary to describe your parameters and even belonging to any organization. This is probably a favorite part of the Academy students. In this life, he had not yet had time to face a huge number of difficulties. Now, the next question. Talk about the difficulties that were encountered in the group. In his past life, Cole forced his teammates to obey him. This is bad. The protagonist thought that he would just participate and win easily, but didn't expect such a setup. If there is a practical test, it will be able to catch up. To go to the third part, he pressed the button. Suddenly, he was moved to a large space. It's amazing that someone receives such a skill for their experience or character traits. Maybe this is the skill of teleportation or illusion. This part of the test includes a practical aspect, a 3-minute test with dummies. It is necessary to demonstrate your skill, defeating the waves of dummies during this time. The weapon takes the form that appears in the head. Of course, Cole chose 2 pistols. These are the pistols that he often used with the magical transformation of weapons, but other skills don't work. The countdown began before the start of the test. The protagonist prepared his special vision. Mannequins appeared. It doesn't seem that they have the same good protection as the armored dummy. Cole will pass as fast as he can. The judges observe his test, and Linda shouts that this is some kind of mistake. This is problematic. They didn't imply this when they prepared the test. Anyone could destroy these dummies if he had been given a gun, so she considers it to be cheating, not to mention the application of Cole. He wrote about difficulties that his life was quite smooth without problems, and about the group he wrote that he forces everyone to fulfill his orders. Linda believes that he doesn't apply seriously, judging by the answers. Michael agrees in some ways. In the end, pistols are not quite suitable weapons for hunters. They are almost impossible to use in the League, and are also difficult to use against monsters. As soon as the weapon is separated from the body of the awakened, the mana contained in it dissipates. This means that for the use of firearms, you need to fill each bullet with mana. This is an incredibly difficult task. In addition, it's difficult to store a lot of mana in them, so most use swords or staff weapons. To release a volley of bullets with a huge amount of mana, only someone like Ethan is capable of this. Bill said that he was interested in this participant. Michael also supports it. The candidate demonstrated extreme insight by finding a loophole in the rules. The final result is what really matters. In addition, this is not the last qualifying stage. They can always disqualify Cole later for certain violations. But Michael thinks that he looks at the weapon not like them. Linda is interesting, for example, but who knows? Perhaps the protagonist believes that pistols are an effective weapon in the Hunter Association. Michael thought it was impossible. Suddenly, he decided to let him try to use only one pistol. The judge hopes that our protagonist will prove him wrong. Meanwhile, Derek told the coach what happened at the show, and fortunately, his friend didn't receive serious injuries. The situation seems strange. Maybe Sean isn't so strong in hand-to-hand combat, but his skill is still incredibly great. But still, Cole wasn't injured and Sean was beaten to half to death. Okay, what is done is done. The coach suggested talking about Derek and his application for participation in the show of newcomers to the Hunter Association. The individual just wanted to tell because he will be busy for some time on the set. The man asked whether the individual who was fighting with Sean would participate. Derek doesn't know but promised to ask when meeting. Then the coach wished him good preparation and they said goodbye. The situation acquires an interesting turn. Sean is also going to take part in the show. The coach is unable to look at it. Cole came to the main stadium of the television show. He wasn't here a long time ago. This is the place where the protagonist began his journey. The Hunter Association is divided into 3 divisions. The first division takes place inside the tower. The second and third are at the virtual reality stadium. Previously, Cole was surprised why these stadiums are so large. After all, almost no one used them. It seems that they are needed for such cases. Among the contestants are several Hunter finalists. The first is Freddie Hart, then Emily Stewart, and also Newton Jones. This show took place long before the debut of Cole, so he didn't expect to see his familiar faces. But in fact, there are quite a lot of them, like several promising characters. He wonders who will win. This time it will be Cool. Derek began to wave to him, inviting to sit next to him. Only he thought that our protagonist would stay in the hospital for some time. Probably for Derek, it looked as if he had received a rather serious injury. Sean was assigned a trial period, and for full recovery he will need 3 weeks. Then Cole asked how he was here. Derek replied that the individual had no choice. The pro teams are looking for talents among academy students, so he should impress. The smoke was scattered over the stadium, and the host appeared. He said that they always need new players and new faces. The birth of a legend which will form the future of the Hunter Association begins. The presenter greeted the most spectacular show in the world. A tower appeared from small pieces. Here, viewers will get acquainted with the greatest hunters of the next generation. Each of the individuals who are here today has overshadowed the countless awakened throughout the country. Competition for a place in the final was 143. Before us is a new era of Korean hunters. Now the presenter will present 3 judges. Linda Jones, leader of the Korean Hunter Association, on the account of which there are 3 victories in the National Association. The best athlete of Korea in the world arena, who took 2nd place in the World Hunter Association, is Michael Phelps. And Bill Stevenson is an outstanding figure among the players of the Korea national team. The audience in shock. They thought that Michael was busy at competitions in the foreign league. These are pretty loud names. They are of the same level with who Cole was before, although he doesn't think that he would lose to any of them. The contestants will perform tasks set by these judges, and the first place will receive 500 million won in weapons made to order in the Morris workshop. Incredibly, ordinary products of this workshop cost hundreds of millions, and the order made to order is intended only for those who are considered worthy. Perhaps Cole will reach the same level of force as in his past life much earlier. Now Linda will tell about the first task. 100 hunters gathered here surpassed 4,350 other candidates. However, there are still too many of them. The association needs a real hunter. Therefore, the first task will be the game of survival in the dungeon where real hunters once fought. The contestants should hold out until only 20 participants remain. In addition, the 5 best participants will gain an advantage at the next stage. And now the test begins. All participants were teleported to a location. These are the lands of lost souls. In his past life, this place was used for the final. Cole knows this place like the back of his hand. Dungeon plan, basic mechanics, ecology, even a secret dungeon. The protagonist smiled with his thoughts about how best to do. Linda thinks that in the survival game he will not be able to use loopholes. Cole managed to go through the qualifying stage without even demonstrating proper skill. It could be argued that this indicates his high intelligence, but Linda wouldn't buy it. In the survival game, you can evaluate the main skills of the hunter, combat skills, intelligence skills, etc. The fake will not have a single chance. No need to underestimate the Hunter Association. The overall level of skill of the participants is impressive. Linda seems to have prepared something interesting. This is a great way to get rid of hunters who lack experience or skills. The girl screamed that there was a problem. One of the participants leaves the assignment area. Bill asked to show closer what was happening. It was Cole who approached one mysterious door. Linda opened her mouth and, surprised, how did the protagonist learn about this place? The artifact of the lands of lost souls is hidden here. Artifacts are treasures hidden in the dungeons, which are very diverse forms. Sometimes it's enough just to get an artifact so that the victory is guaranteed. This dungeon has not yet been used for tasks, so no one should know about it. Even the players of the First Division, not to mention ordinary people, Cole shouldn't know about this place. Michael said that if this is a mistake, then they need to understand everything. But Linda replied that this wasn't a mistake. This virtual reality is created in the image of a real dungeon, and Cole is now gaining access to a hidden area. Nobody knows about her, even the players of the Hunter Association. That's why she isn't on the map. If so, then Michael asked what was in a hidden dungeon. This is ether, so powerful artifact that it is prohibited in the Hunter Association. Bill and Michael thought to remove him, but this is possible only by stopping the match. You cannot carry ether into the real world, but can be used in the match. However, Michael said that such a powerful artifact should have a keeper. Keepers are monsters that protect artifacts. The more powerful the artifact, the stronger its keeper. Linda cried out enthusiastically that he was right and decided to check. A cube was the guardian of the ether. Finally, Cole entered there. His memories were a little blurred. Still, a lot of time passed, but he found the right place. If the protagonist overwhelms the keeper and gets the ether, then winning this round will be easier. The cube began to spread into small pieces, making dazzling light. Cole quickly moved away. He could die if he hadn't encountered this before. This cube was identified as an advanced technological relic discovered in the ruins of the tower. The protagonist defeated him in the finale to get the ether and consolidate the victory. Since Cole discovered him in the middle of the match, he was able to use it, although it was prohibited. Thanks to the magical transformation of the weapon, he gave his sword the form of scrap. The protagonist suggests that this will happen this time. He jumped and swung. He managed to break a piece of the cube with difficulty. Painfully fell, but there is one part. It would be difficult to win the custodian of the monster type with the current characteristics of the protagonist. But a cube is a machine that was designed to protect ancient relics. While you know how he attacks, you can cope with him. The cube was transformed into two huge palms, and Cole was accurately guessed by the moment when they collapsed, although it was close. But the protagonist didn't miss his chance. The palm split into many small parts. Right before dodging his attack, Cole threw a broken piece between his palms. No matter how strong the cube is, this part of it is no less durable. It's natural that he broke. It's time to take the ether. There was a golden staircase leading to the pedestal with a chest. A lot of time has passed since the protagonist saw the ether for the last time, even if this one isn't real. Everything goes according to plan, the artifact of Cole in the hands. He will install it on his weapon. An awakened talent broadcast appeared. You can use your mana to create an exact copy of the ether. The victory over the Keeper is considered a special achievement, and Cole received another skill. That's how it was. Now he took his pistols to test it. Judging by the traces of bullets, perhaps with this skill, Cole will use his gun earlier than he thought. In his last life, he had an extremely large supply of mana, allowing shooting bullets created from mana. The protagonist has not yet activated the complete awakening, so he doesn't have as much mana as before. However, perhaps he will be able to work it with the help of the ether. It's good enough for firing for suppression, but it will be difficult to get to the target with it. However, Cole can work with this. The judges carefully watched how he again took up the pistols. So he is going to use ether. But how did Cole completely dodge that laser shot? Cube isn't a living creature, so Michael suggests that the protagonist acts according to a certain scheme. But what are the chances that he knows about it? Linda says that this is possible for professionals like them, but not for the participants. He thinks that he has the skill of clairvoyance, predicting the actions of the enemy. If you discard this to the side, Cole still thought of defeating the Keeper with this piece of cube. She remembered Michael's words that some hunters are eccentric people in whom the true potential is hidden. Meanwhile, Freddy's situation was progressing favorably. He led the elimination count. Everything proceeded exactly as the members of the primary team of the Seoul Private Academy had predicted. Given the 60 survivors, this round should conclude soon. It appeared to him that no one existed who could surpass him in individual combat. But suddenly he heard the sound of gunfire. Cole finally emerged and thought he had delayed too long. 60 people had already been eliminated. He could barely claim first position if he eliminated all the remaining participants. But the protagonist simply couldn't locate everyone. He would be pleased to claim at least fifth position. Cole decided to simply try to eliminate as many as possible. Suddenly he noticed Sean in the bushes, who was waiting for another participant. Our protagonist approached from behind and tapped on the shoulder of the troublemaker. The individual fell to the ground in terror. Cole said that he had a small problem here and he hoped that Sean could assist him. The individual was furious, said that our protagonist was dead, calling him a bastard. Cole only replied that he had come here to ask for assistance, and that Sean behaved somewhat rudely. The individual was only more angry and pushed back our protagonist. If Cole makes him use this skill on a larger area, but with reduced power, he could sneak up and take away all the eliminations for himself. Although Sean doesn't look like he is going to help, well, nothing. Cole will make him change his mind. The protagonist began to scream the words head, stomach, swinging at the individual. Thus, the whole face of Sean was covered in wounds. He sadly asked what Cole wants. The protagonist offered to work together, but Sean replied that he didn't want to have any business with him. Then a gun appeared in the hand of our protagonist. He shot right next to the individual's leg, and then he put it to his head with the words that then he would have to get rid of him, or Sean can help Cole and stay alive. The individual surrendered and asked what was needed from him. 2 participants fought in the forest, and with one blow our protagonist took them. Someone launched a sword in the back of Sean and Cole. Sean noticed in time and stopped it with gravity. It seems that the sound of shooting was too loud, and the individuals attracted a lot of guests here. Among them was the angrily tuned Freddy. The Hunter Association is a team sport. Naturally, not every player is suitable for attack. Although Sean takes 3rd place with 8 eliminations, gravity is the most effective skill of support on the battlefield. Michael said that he was doing good, but he can ultimately become a victim of Cole. Linda doesn't think so. Our protagonist would have already shot if he wanted to eliminate him. It seems to the judges that the individuals are talking about something. It seems that Cole wants to use Sean as a support, but they are interested in how he found a suitable person. The judges don't think that they met in advance. Does Cole have a skill that can determine the skills of others? No, Michael thinks too much. Bill seems to have a great duet of the individuals. Sean can restrain enemies with gravity, while Cole will destroy them with a pistol with ether. But Michael wouldn't be so sure of that. It doesn't seem that the enemy will be so easy to win. 4 participants, led by Freddy, approached. What is the most powerful way to win in battle? This isn't a powerful weapon, tactics, or team composition. The easiest and most effective way is to surpass the enemy in numbers. On the side of Cole, Sean, which can use gravity, but it's just support. No matter how hard they try, they are unlikely to be able to win. Freddy and the rest probably think so. Cole has evaded the sword. For a long time, he didn't feel it. For Freddy, this is probably the first time. The individual doesn't know what the protagonist did, but a rather unusual weapon fell into his hands. Freddy plans to simply destroy Cole and threw a blade into it again. The protagonist shoots back in parallel. Everything develops perfectly. In his past life, Freddy could control several swords with the help of telekinesis, but now he cannot. It will be difficult for him to protect himself from many bullets. The individual immediately disappeared behind the wood from the bullets. Unlike his past life, he now uses strategy. At this time, another individual close to Cole was attacked. He still has a lot to learn. If you come so close to the enemy with a gun, his chances of missing are 0, -1. Cole ran further and, with the help of omniscient vision, saw the other two in the bushes. The protagonist will remove them while Freddy will defend himself. The swordsman and then the archer are dead. In total, Cole has 7 eliminations, and the last is Freddy. The ability of this individual to reflect each shot is incredible, even if we take into account that Cole bullets fly slowly due to the low stock of mana. But unfortunately for Freddy, our protagonist is better. The individual is getting harder to fight back. Cole connected omniscient vision, and while the individual was busy deflecting, shot. The protagonist was glad that he took him out. But such a pleasant moment interrupted the end of the test. 20 survivors returned to the stadium. Cole would get them all. He was simply unlucky. Judges congratulate the participants. Each of the survivors deserved the right to consider himself a real hunter. If we take into account that the hunters are a tiny part of the awakened, this is truly amazing. The association needs people similar to the first generation of hunters, those who defended humanity. Michael believes that the survival game gave contestants an idea of what it means to be a hunter. Details of the next task will be disclosed next week. To become better, participants can freely use a gym at this time. Michael strongly recommends visiting it at least once. The judges wished good luck and a rating appeared. In the final rating, Cole took 5th place and Freddy was the first. The task was completed and the awakened talent, Ether, remained with the protagonist. Derek ran up and approached his friend. He heard that Cole took 5th place. The protagonist also asked whether Derek himself succeeded. The individual nodded. Everyone only says that Cole used a gun. Derek is very interested in how he managed to get it and force it to shoot. But at that moment, the producers approached the protagonist and said to prepare for an interview. He was positioned against the background of the chroma key and began to film. The first question about why Cole decided to come to the show. The protagonist thought that he was a better candidate than he wasn't. Further, the host congratulated on passage to the final and asked to share his thoughts about the first stage. The protagonist said that everything could have developed better, but he went through the test as he should. He ran into many rivals, but no one seemed to him a worthy opponent. Cole is a little worried about Freddy, but wouldn't call him his rival. In this case, the presenter asked how it happened that our protagonist took only 5th place, and he replied with a cunning smile that it would be uninteresting if he escaped ahead from the very beginning of the show. The operator and the host a little in shock. This individual is just something. After the interview, many individuals gathered in the dining room for lunch. Derek approached and Cole asked what was the matter. The individual was so painful to answer questions during the interview. They tried to compare him with the show. Because of this, Derek was very uncomfortable. So it was probably because Sean always humiliated him, and Derek isn't one of those who speak poorly about the elders. Therefore, the individual said that his opponent wasn't Sean, but Cole. It's even worse. It was just necessary to agree that it was Sean. Derek asked what they asked our protagonist. He said that these were ordinary questions like who would win. And obviously, Cole said that it would be he. Derek seems to be mentioned by Freddy or Emily. Our protagonist is well done, but the individual says that these two are at a different level, even among the members of the academy. We can say that they are the aces of the team. Derek thinks that they could play in the professional association without any problems. He is sure that Cole would also think if he saw them in action. The protagonist was outraged that Derek so all this time thought that these two were at a different level compared to himself. If the individual thinks in this way, then he will never achieve anything. It's better to abandon these thoughts. Cole got up and said that he was going to practice. Maybe he was too cruel with Derek, but it had to be said. The talent of everyone is more or less the same, except with some exceptions. Those who surpass everyone else are people who look clearly at the top. There's no point in considering yourself less capable than others, especially at the age of Derek. Suddenly, an individual named Dustin approached the protagonist. He heard that Cole fought with Freddy in the first stage. He was interested in how it was, because Freddy couldn't be defeated at the academy, and it was amazing. Dustin wanted to know the name, and our protagonist answered. Cole was warily asked what he wanted. The individual said that Freddy was furious when the survival game was over. Freddy himself grabbed Dustin by the jacket and began to drag him away, apologizing for him. To be honest, Cole didn't understand what had just happened. He heard they are both from the academy and it seems they get along well. The protagonist decided to check them with the help of omniscient vision. Freddy has sword control skills and acceleration at maximum level, and Dustin has enhanced power and strength. Since the complete awakening isn't activated, some of their characteristics exceed Cole by 50%, and sometimes 2 times. He managed to win at the stage thanks to the broadcast, but the next round may not be so easy. The dream of many novice hunters who want to become a professional begins now. The judges gathered and discussed the top participant from the Seoul Private Academy, Freddy. In an interview, he said that becoming a hunter was his dream. Since childhood, life wasn't easy. He failed the entrance exams to the academy twice. Despite everything, he didn't give up. So Freddy realized that zealous work was always rewarded and also learned to improve. This explains why the individual maintains that persistence and unwavering resolve serve as fundamental tools for conquering challenges. Neither Derek nor Cole anticipated the program would broadcast with such speed. Technological advancement has progressed significantly. Feedback appears quite favorable. Numerous viewers comment that Freddy's responses lack engagement and excitement. However, they acknowledge his humble nature. Conversely, the following contestant selected more unconventional responses. At that moment, Cole noticed his own image displayed on Derek's mobile device screen. During his interview segment, he claimed he encountered no obstacles while pursuing his hunter career path. Should team members delegate all decision-making authority to him, complications would never emerge. While Freddy focuses on personal development objectives, Cole simply assumes no superior candidate exists. Yet one similarity connects them. Each believes they face no worthy adversaries. The protagonist switched off Derek's device and suggested they proceed to training sessions. The individual felt disappointed they failed to advance to the survival competition. Cole mentioned they could review it later during the rebroadcast. Derek questions why the hero only exercises his lower limbs. Cole inquired about his designated position. The individual understands he functions as a ranged combatant, requiring maximum damage output as his priority. Mobility remains equally crucial. Derek might have observed this during the survival competition. However, Freddy and other elite melee specialists possess either exceptional agility or devastating attacks that threaten ranged fighters significantly. Therefore, Cole's movement capabilities must match or exceed those of close-quarters combatants. Their discussion was suddenly interrupted when someone entered the training facility. He addressed the protagonist directly. Within the Korean Hunter League, strategies targeting ranged fighters rarely appear. He requested Cole's perspective. Who might this person be? His access to this restricted area suggests special status. The hero confirmed this observation, noting how teams compete against British ECG or French ALD organizations. Initially, they prioritize eliminating long-distance combatants. Put differently, success depends entirely on which ranged fighter you encounter. This reasoning satisfies Cole's leg training regimen. The man smiled knowingly. The hero indicates his ranged combat expertise makes him a primary target for enemies. The man chuckled at such boldness, finding it quite intriguing. Nevertheless, overconfidence represents a leading factor in many defeats. The man advised considering this guidance based on his extensive experience. He would monitor Cole's progress. The stranger departed, leaving numerous unanswered questions. His identity remains unclear. Since he mentioned observation, the hero must demonstrate his true capabilities. This individual, Adam Steinberg, chairman of the Hunter Association and first-generation hunter, occupied his office. His aide mentioned that ranged fighters prioritize support abilities and offensive power. This assessment is incorrect. He suggested that even their strongest attacks prove worthless without precision. Accuracy becomes essential. Adam instructed him to disregard this. He became lost in recollections. He once wondered why a colleague constantly trained his legs while neglecting mana development. The companion explained that legs matter most for distant combat specialists. Monsters target them consistently. Knowing their close combat weakness, ranged fighters must maintain constant movement after firing shots. Young Adam was amazed by this simple truth. Discovery of a ranged fighter's position equals certain death. Adam struggles to comprehend this since he engages in melee combat. Ranged combatants require mobility for this reason. This principle applies to the Hunter League. Naturally, current league conditions differ since most elite hunters perished. In high-level competition, particularly global tournaments, this remains accurate. Cole has not yet joined the Hunter League, but already contemplates international competition. Does this reflect arrogance or genuine confidence? Cole's abilities develop faster than in his previous existence. He attributes this to complete prosperity, a skill possessing dual characteristics. It grants talents upon completing specific tasks, essentially providing entirely new abilities. Additionally, it dramatically accelerates attribute growth rates, truly remarkable capability. Derek asked about Cole's post-training plans and requested personal recommendations. Derek maintains excellent physical conditioning from academy training. He requires less intensive preparation than Cole. The hero responded that insufficient familiarity prevented him from suggesting anything specific. Cole then proposed a sparring match with an ominous grin. The pair moved to a designated combat area. Derek expressed shock that the hero also possessed sword-fighting skills. While he would stand no chance against Cole with firearms, sword combat might prove different. The hero initiated the offensive assault. Derek defended himself while remaining tense. He could not understand the situation. This ordinary blade made combat extremely difficult. Cole employed magical weapon transformation techniques. Derek attributed everything to the disparity in their talent levels. He could not reach his opponent. Cole now wielded an enormous sword. Derek had no strategy to counter this attack. Eventually, he collapsed to the ground, completely exhausted. Cole asked for his assessment of this supposed adversary. Derek acknowledged the hero's superior abilities. Cole then revealed he had held back significantly. He appeared completely serious. Derek felt crushed that his weakness compared so poorly. Did he truly lack talent? Suddenly, the hero explained the reason for defeat. The weapon was not the issue. Cole displayed the sword Derek utilizes. Now examine his strengths. Through acceleration skills, he possesses surprise elements and makes split-second decisions. How can these advantages combine with a lengthy sword? The answer is they cannot. Instead, Derek should use lighter, quicker blades like rapiers. Cole retrieved one from storage. Combined with Derek's abilities, he could overwhelm enemies with rapid strikes. The individual had never considered this possibility. Following training, Derek admitted uncertainty, but felt he had gained insight. Cole suddenly overheard a conversation about himself. Someone called him arrogant after defeating an academy dropout. Apparently, one person had been observing the heroes throughout their session. Clearly, he disliked the hero enough to provoke him directly. Cole never ignores such behavior. so he asked if the individual could handle consequences. Initially thinking the person held rank, the hero clarified his position bluntly. Cole suggested fighting if the guy had not soiled himself. The challenger became furious at such insolence and agreed. Wait a moment. This was Liam, who tied with Cole for 5th place in the survival game. His abilities and statistics appeared quite impressive. The hero's stats seemed insignificant compared to his. Cole would certainly lose if strength alone determined victory. The opponent suggested using a battle room. Cole declared he would not even need pistols to defeat someone like Liam. He ranked among the best novice players. Furthermore, firearms proved useless since his abilities were known. The competitors decided to begin. Cole might lose this encounter. This did not mean he would retreat. The hero swung his sword first. Liam hurled 3 daggers simultaneously. He specialized in medium-range combat. Cole intended to pressure him, preventing counterattacks. The hero deflected the initial 3 daggers, but more followed too quickly. Fortunately, he activated air shield through complete flowering, blocking the strike. Otherwise, Cole's defeat would have been immediate. Liam appeared ready to continue throwing knives while maintaining distance. Additionally, he possessed telekinetic abilities. He felt certain he had eliminated the hero. However, Cole somehow managed to deflect the daggers. Apparently, he concealed additional capabilities. The hero transformed his sword into a dagger and launched it at his opponent. Liam laughed because telekinesis would easily stop the projectile. Cole anticipated this exact response. The initial blade served merely as preparation for his actual attack using remaining knives. Liam halted 4 knives using telekinesis. He could not maintain this ability, targeting multiple objects simultaneously for extended periods. This meant the final knife, which Liam could not completely stop, would definitely strike him while he concentrated on the others. The system announced Cole's victory accordingly. Michael and another man observed carefully. This was the predicted winner, according to the judge. The man analyzed the situation using his specialized glasses. He noted Cole's excellent strategic instincts and clever concealment of 3 knives, not to mention his relatively modest statistical attributes. Michael understood this completely. The man believed he knew something about this individual. He wondered what skills the hero possessed. Cole could never have executed this strategy without knowledge of enemy telekinesis, Michael suspected. He might have something similar to Analysis Eye, like the man or first-generation hunter Philip Kraser. Analysis Eye represents an extremely useful and rare skill possessed by only 2 people. Perhaps they placed excessive hope in Cole simply because he predicted enemy abilities. Regarding that matter, Michael thought they might underestimate him. The hero knew about the hidden dungeon. During qualification stages, he targeted only clone cores specifically. Should Cole debut in First Division, people would claim he was Philip Kraser's reincarnation, the legend himself. Michael was certain the man wanted to recruit the hero for his team, which was accurate. His analysis eye could observe people's characteristics but not their skills. Yet this individual, Cole, understood enemy telekinesis and devised a strategy for victory. The man asked which team he would join. Cole must have impressed him greatly. Unfortunately, show-sponsoring teams received selection priority. The man gritted his teeth, realizing he needed to find methods to acquire Cole. Meanwhile, the hero did not realize complete flowering represented a special achievement. He was in no hurry to understand this concept. Derek trained, believing he could now defeat Cole. The hero told him not to speak foolishly, but Derek insisted he had improved significantly. His swordsmanship had never been so refined. Derek genuinely became stronger. Following Cole's guidance proved beneficial. Still, he had no chance against him. All contestants were summoned to a special classroom. Cole and Derek also took their seats. They would actually receive instruction. The judges entered the room. Linda welcomed everyone and asked how their week-long break proceeded. Or rather, their week of training. For some participants, it proved quite productive. For others, results were less impressive. Regardless, she believed the individuals still required education. Each possessed talent with enormous potential. However, a significant gap remained between them and professional hunters. Therefore, judges assembled a mentor team for their benefit. Each of 3 people presented before them had performed in First Division League, could claim victories or other accomplishments. They would handle both briefing and performance evaluation. They would teach functions. Student work would be assessed through Mini Hunter League format for teams of 3. Pressure emanated from one source. Mana manipulation alone could intimidate everyone present. Impressive. A mentor named Bruce Tales would train close combat fighters. He could not tolerate those lacking persistence or deliberately remaining ignorant, but he despised overconfident fools most. Mr. Tales instructed the students to stay humble and take lessons seriously. After evaluating performances during qualification stage, survival game, and previous week, judges determined roles for each individual. Upon being called, they would approach their designated mentors. Cole was first. He was assigned to the close combat team. This came as a shock. He could not understand why they placed him there. Freddie was here along with Emily, and Derek. This group contained many promising individuals. Mr. Tales appeared on the field. He told his students to forget previous instruction. He did not care about their academy backgrounds, since each was weaker than 3rd Division hunters. As they might have observed during Hunter League matches, all hunters use skills or equipment for mana-activated mobility, such as air anchor and air step. These tools enable hunters to engage in more dynamic and spectacular battles. Mr. Tales would teach students to use air anchor and air step. He refused to train close combat hunters lacking these abilities. They could begin now. Using them initially proved definitely challenging. Previously, Cole could utilize them as natural body extensions. He wondered if muscle memory remained intact. Mr. Tales was outraged by student failures. After all, they were destined to become Korean Hunter League stars. 3rd Division League was rightfully known as a beginner's graveyard, perfect trap for such fools. The mentor's loudness made Cole barely able to concentrate. Derek appeared to experience difficulties as well. This was expected. Students received no instructions whatsoever. Derek was performing incorrectly, and Cole told him to descend. Derek asked if the hero planned to train, since Mr. Tales would test them on this. Cole replied he should worry about himself. Did he think he would succeed at this pace? Derek then asked what to do. The hero said first determine mana rope length, then maintain constant mana flow. Otherwise, rope length would constantly fluctuate. Therefore, Derek could not maintain balance and needed to focus on his center of gravity. While airborne, his body should serve as the gravitational center. Cole demonstrated this by successfully landing on his feet. It became much easier to prevent falls or adjust body position. One must concentrate on maintaining steady mana flow. Derek repeated instructions and attempted the technique himself. To his amazement, it worked. He claimed to have talent since it succeeded on the first attempt. Mr. Tales shouted at them for talking. They were not here for entertainment. Losers could not accomplish anything. The mentor asked for the hero's name. Cole introduced himself. The teacher seemed to be testing them. The hero remained indifferent. Mr. Tales suggested he simply stood doing nothing because he felt confident in his abilities. The hero replied that appearances were accurate. He could withdraw. However, he was curious how they intended to test them with air anchor and step. Considering past life experience, Cole was older, and elders had duty to educate younger companions. Mr. Tales decided he had given everyone sufficient time and began testing. Michael indignantly questioned why Cole's name appeared on the close combat team list. Perhaps Linda made an error. He suggested appointing him to the long-range group. She thought it would be nice to place him there, since he could handle close combat weapons. More importantly, he was excessively selfish. Therefore, Linda assigned him to Mr. Tales' group. Her plan seemed to humble a beginner by pitting him against a First Division hunter. Linda believed everything was in order. She wanted to bring this arrogant upstart down to earth. The test required reaching the air anchor above. Mr. Tales hoped a participant who felt confident enough to fool around would demonstrate his capabilities. because otherwise he did not deserve to become a hunter. He appeared to be trying to eliminate Cole through this test. The hero then asked what the mentor would do if he succeeded. Mr. Tails would grant him absolute freedom to do whatever he wanted in classes. However, the teacher was certain this was impossible. This anchor was 100 meters above the floor. This height was inaccessible to first-time anchor users. Even intermediate-level users could not achieve this. Initially, everyone failed. Then Mr. Tails observed how Freddy used his sword to launch upward. This was something more powerful than telekinesis. Unfortunately, he was not using the air anchor, but perhaps he could climb higher. Everyone also admired Cole's incredible agility. Mr. Tails turned around. Cole somehow showed no fear of falling. Suddenly, the hero failed the air step and began to fall. Fortunately, he grasped the anchor and regained his balance. Now Cole was very close to catching the desired upper anchor. Naturally, he succeeded. Mr. Tails could not believe it. Students were using these devices for the first time. The next day, students were in the classroom. During the lecture, the instructor explained that close combat had two main roles. First were initiators, whose role was to start battles and defeat opponents. Boring theory after practice made Cole drowsy. Fortunately, Mr. Tails could not criticize him. Second role, familiar to everyone, was close combat fighters. Their task was to engage after the initiator. Upon closer examination, many more roles existed, but this knowledge was sufficient for now. So what? Cole had to win the argument. He spent years in the Hunter League. For him, it was simple. In any case, somehow a note from an unknown person appeared in his pocket. There was an offer to meet after class in the backyard at 7 o'clock from the training center. Someone wanted to show something interesting. It seemed worth investigating. Cole arrived at the specified location, but nobody was there. Perhaps this was some kind of joke. However, with his all-seeing eye, something underground was clearly visible. The hero approached closer and a staircase opened before him, leading downward. He slowly began descending into the secret area. There he was greeted by Chairman Adam. Cole had already researched who he was online. The man smiled. The hero still found a way to reach here. The hero said the note was useless. Who would come here based on that description 7 hours from the training center? Adam must have tested whether he would find the way. Cole then asked why he was summoned here. The chairman had watched all show moments featuring the hero. Only one episode had aired so far. Of course, this was not everything he knew about Cole. Adam witnessed his training, where he demonstrated incredible mobility and observation. The hero intrigued him. The chairman decided he would try to predict who would win this show. He thought it would be Cole. Not only that, Adam was certain he would reach First Division and possibly even higher. The hero remained interested in what they wanted to show him. The chairman wrote that it was something interesting. The man pressed a button and doors began opening. Behind them was S-rank weaponry and specialized mana equipment. Cole asked why he was shown this. Adam asked if the hero truly did not want them. Of course, he wanted them. He even grasped the weapon he used in his past life. Caliborn was an incredible sword he received in a significant match as a prize for victory. It was extremely pleasant to use these swords. It was also special when transformed into a pistol. Adam could lend Cole one of these weapons if he wanted. The hero then asked if they could simply give it away. The chairman replied he would understand if he knew this weapon's cost. It was much more valuable than the weapon Cole would receive from Morass' workshop. The hero sighed. In the end, this was just equipment. He offered to stop beating around the bush and asked what Adam wanted from him. The chairman was surprised. People usually tried to flatter him when they discovered he was a first-generation hunter and chairman. However, this individual looked down on him. You would not see this every day. Adam suggested Cole join the Hunter Association, not as an employee but as a hunter. If he joined, the man would allow him to borrow any weapons presented here. However, what would Cole gain from this? Of course, he knew what joining the Hunter Association meant, but he did not understand the benefit for himself. If this was all Adam could offer, he would leave. The next class would begin soon. Adam stopped him, saying he might overestimate his abilities. He mentioned many young talents who succeeded in second and third divisions, but went no further. However, Cole was not interested. The only thing that mattered to him was whether he could accomplish this or not. He appreciated that Adam showed him all this and said goodbye to the old man. Cole departed, and the chairman was amazed, sighing with admiration. The hero arrived at the office. Derek was worried he would not arrive on time. Cole always made him worry, especially after the incident with Mr. Tails. The hero replied he was not so irresponsible. They would not be expelled for tardiness. The show must continue after all. Nevertheless, Cole mentioned that one elderly man wanted to meet. Honestly, the hero could have accepted his proposal. However, with such experience, he would manage perfectly well without these weapons. Anyway, for victory, he would receive custom weaponry from Morass Workshop. Cole would wait until it became more valuable, and only then would he play to his full potential. If that did not work out, he would simply create his own team. Judges hoped lessons with mentors benefited the students. Time had come to utilize these skills. Contestants would participate in 3 versus 3 battles in the aerial combat zone. In this round, the winning team would advance to the next stage. Losers would be disqualified. Also, to raise stakes, judges prepared a special prize for winners. This was a mana stream. It enhanced both quantity and effectiveness of mana, exactly what Cole needed. He would require more mana once he acquired new skills. He would have to win this round. Since this match marked the beginning of actual qualification stages, everything happening would be recorded in real time. Participants were already being filmed. Their results with lessons would help determine queue order. Whoever achieved the highest result would receive the privilege to choose their team first. That was all. Michael asked them to proceed to waiting rooms. 3 battles would occur, 3 versus 3. Now students needed to choose teams. Judge filming was complete. Cole performed well in the survival game, but he was completely competent, yet he absolutely lacked empathy for others. Linda thought this would serve as an obstacle for him. The game was team-based. Michael drew her attention. She arranged a team round in aerial combat format, although 20 participants remained. Given her desire to simplify battles, arranging an individual skills round would be more logical. Michael said participants were not yet ready for team battles. Linda understood this herself. She admitted that, honestly, she wanted Cole's disqualification, no matter how well he managed. Air anchor or air step. Remaining alone equaled vulnerability like a pile of ducklings. The large arena required participants to quickly cross long distances, so Cole would again remain at a disadvantage due to low indicators. Michael had not seen Linda focus on someone this way. She believed the hero had talent, only now victory was not what he needed. Bill agreed. He said excessive self-confidence was a terrible quality, especially for beginning hunters. Even First Division players could instantly crash if they behaved carelessly. Michael, conversely, believed that in the Hunter League, confidence leading to triumph and arrogance, leading to failure, were 2 sides of the same coin. They would see how Cole coped with obstacles from judges. Presenters informed the hero he was first. He had the highest indicators, so he had the right to choose 2 people for his team. Cole then found Sean and Liam and invited them to give their absolute best. Liam was indignant about how the hero chose him, as if mocking. He appeared overly self-confident. Apparently, Liam could not accept that he lost to Cole. There should be no problems with the show. He witnessed everything with his own eyes now. In the end, he was just a child. Cole said that in this round he was going to take the main role. He believed in the abilities of these individuals and relied on them. Liam was dumbfounded but eventually softened. God, what one would not do for victory's sake. The individual asked if there was a plan. Of course, this was why Cole chose them. They needed to do as he instructed. The individuals quietly discussed something among themselves, and the hero promised something. Liam shouted in surprise. He thought Cole was joking. Not that the hero could explain he was from the future. Cole said simply to do as he instructed and try not to mess up. If Liam failed, this would benefit opponents. Better avoid this. So they agreed. The 3 versus 3 battle in Mini Hunter League begins. Arena would serve as aerial combat zone. Touch the ground or become useless for the game. Instant elimination. Participants who were defeated would be excluded. Judges wished everyone good luck. Cole gathered his thoughts and teleported to the field. Now was time to act. He was on a skyscraper southwest of Center. As it seemed to him, nobody else occupied this building. Sean was in the southeastern part of the arena, Liam on the eastern side, somewhere between Center and Border. They were in contact with Cole through headphones. Act according to his plan. Sooner or later, they would definitely meet. Now, Sean and Liam simply needed to move toward Center and try to go unnoticed. If they encountered someone along the way, retreat immediately. Only 3 teams of 3 people participated in the test. Therefore, the chance of meeting rivals in such a huge arena was quite small. This meant Cole would need to somehow attract enemy attention. Someone fired. No matter who released the arrow, surely they had managed to contact their ally. Therefore, Cole simply ignored it. He must reach the high-rise in the arena center. Liam and Sean were in the field. They found quite good shelter. Cole asked about the view and whether the environment was clearly visible. They needed to see the hero. The individuals could see, but Cole most likely would not notice. They could start. The hero fired at the sky. Now they would wait. Dustin appeared immediately asking what Cole was doing here. The individual said how he came down. He had been waiting for a convenient moment for a long time. Cole would become his first opponent. However, Dustin needed to inform Freddy. The individual said not to bother. Dustin had not turned off his microphone. Freddy told him simply to stall for time. However, if he succeeded, then finish it. Cole actually heard everything too. Freddy was already approaching, so he asked for no foolish actions. They could not wait too long. Otherwise, Cole would have to deal with 2 opponents simultaneously. This was at best. Dustin spoke through gritted teeth, asking many questions. He knew the hero managed to cope with the test most successfully. Blah, blah, blah. This individual was chatting incessantly. Why did he assume Cole was alone? Dustin replied that if it were not so, then he and his teammates would have attacked him long ago. Dustin apologized, but he still wanted to know details of Cole and Freddy's battle. He was much stronger than the hero, as should be expected. Distance needed to be maintained. Cole escaped using an air anchor. However, Dustin had also mastered air step and pursued him. He handled the task well, not faltering even while airborne. Cole moved to another building. Then he began shooting. However, it did not work. Dustin deflected the bullet. He was quite a promising hunter. Pistols would not be able to stop him. Cole's ether was not as strong as what he obtained in the survival game. Eliminating the individual quickly would not work. The weapon was not powerful enough. The hero did not have much mana. Suddenly, Cole stopped. Freddy finally arrived and was seriously focused. The hero told Sean and Liam to prepare. When Freddy began approaching, he gave a signal to the individuals, but they did not appear. Freddy and Sean were frightened, but ultimately decided it was a bluff. Again, Freddy with his telekinesis, pursuing Cole, saying he would not be able to deceive them. However, they did not know that Sean had already launched a gravitational attack. Cole began falling. Freddy shouted that he was tired of living. However, literally after a second, they began falling too. Liam used telekinesis to catch Cole and save him from the fall. However, Freddy and Dustin were rescued by no one. They realized they had messed up and were excluded from the test. At that moment, Cole felt his body was compressed from all sides. Not very pleasant, but quite tolerable. Liam could not even imagine that someday he would use telekinesis this way. Cole's plan still worked, but if there had been direct confrontation, they would not have succeeded so easily. He attracted rival attention and made them pursue, and when the entire group was airborne, Sean stunned them with a sudden gravitational attack. Liam, in turn, caught the hero using telekinesis. However, opponents awaited a different fate. The game was not over yet, so Cole said not to relax. Perhaps other participants witnessed the battle, so it was likely they would not fall for this trick. Meanwhile, Emily alone handled 3 hunters. However, nothing else was expected from her. Now came time for announcing winners. It was Cole's entire team. Emily informed the individuals that they alone could not cope with Cole, and so fell and crashed. She was simply shocked. How could things go so wrong? After all, they had already participated in similar competition. Dustin began making excuses that today the strategy was impeccable and he was not prepared. Freddie apologized, saying this was his fault. He should have acted more carefully. In his past life, Cole thought the same way. Instead of being upset about defeat, he began analyzing. Meanwhile, Liam came to apologize for those rude words. However, the individual was embarrassed and left, saying Cole seemed to have forgotten everything. Apparently, Liam was one of those who would not admit guilt even under pain of death. Linda could not believe that Cole and his team so easily defeated everyone. Unexpected outcome. This was complete and unconditional victory of strategy over force. Michael said, "This individual is something." After all, this competition did not even involve testing strategic thinking. Developing a plan, relying only on information about teammate skills, was quite difficult. It was also interesting that he chose people with whom he did not get along at all. Cole was very prudent. The first round of the show was over. Time had come to reward champions. The heroes' team rose to the stage. They scored the most points. Each of them was awarded a mana stone. Finally, the first step of Cole's plan was completed. Perhaps with this artifact, he would be able to awaken complete prosperity. The host wanted them to reach the final and become legends. Even better, to reach world level. However, today there were individuals unworthy of hunter titles. Losing teams would go through elimination. Well, after all, this was competitive show. Logically, players would be eliminated. Only 13 participants were removed, apparently, including Derek. This time, they would conduct a test where 2 people would have to work together as a team. For the task, teammates would need to advance synchronously and capture the point. Captured territory would need protection from rivals within 1 minute. There was another option. The kill point. These battle locations could be taken to rise in rankings through victories over opponents. Since participant numbers were odd, one could invite someone who had passed to their team. Of course, in this case, the companion would not be expelled from the game if the participant did not gain enough points. Cole thought so. Freddie and Emily decided to unite. He would have done the same in their place. The easiest way to pass the test was choosing a strong partner. Derek still had not found a pair. It was even interesting whether he could avoid disqualification. Who knew what fate had prepared? However, now he was in elimination and it was very risky. Suddenly, Derek ran to Cole. He hoped the hero would not refuse help. Still, they studied at the same school. Besides Cole, there was nobody else. However, the hero was categorically opposed. Derek began pleading. Cole advised him to change weapons and gave guidance. Now he was like his mentor. Cole did not understand why he suddenly became a mentor. Okay, he was persuaded. The hero would help him, but only because he simply had nothing else to do. By the way, Cole just wanted to test the mana stream. He wondered if it would influence his skills. However, the hero told Derek he would have to obey completely and entirely. This was the last assistance. At night, in his room, Cole took out the stone. Time had come to try it. Its owner gradually absorbs the artifact's power, thereby increasing mana quantity. If you swallow the stone, skill levels will instantly increase. It was true that Cole had already worked with such stones, and this one provided the same effects. All-seeing eye, magical weapon transformation, and complete strikes were being improved. Awakened talent. Naming your attacks was strengthened, like ether. The levels of main statistics had truly increased. The number of mana also increased by 1. Previously, the Air Force was enough only to detain the enemy. However, perhaps now Cole could obtain, strengthening no worse than what gave him the original artifact in the survival game. It turned out successfully. Cole had already developed a plan for tomorrow's test. Now he could sleep a little. The day promised to be heavy. He dreamed of something. It all started with a small organization which once was on the verge of bankruptcy. Soon after waking up, the hero managed to reveal his abilities. Then he received an offer to join the team from the director of one company. He promised to develop skills. In return, he asked to activate complete flowering as soon as possible, because without it, you could not get into the league. Cole said that the effects of this ability with the current level would be weak, so he wanted to wait. He joined the team but did not unlock the skill and did not let him out. The director tried to influence this. He said that players were simply consumables and the hero was not special only because of successful training. As a result, Cole nevertheless changed his mind and aroused complete flowering. The director recognized and was very delighted. The hero continued to grow and improve. He managed to win the Champion Cup and perpetuate his name. However, the early awakening of complete flowering entailed equally rapid wilting. Cole woke up in horror. Not the most pleasant memories. However, now everything was completely different. Success was definitely awaiting him. He already managed to lay the foundation for a future career. He accomplished this much earlier and better than other young athletes. Cole did not deny. Now he could hardly defeat the best beginners of his generation. You needed to work on yourself. However, having awakened and strengthened the prosperity, he would be able to achieve higher results. Yes, his past life went. Cole came to the center and asked Derek. He replied 100%. He managed to think through absolutely everything from warm-up to strategy. The hero was surprised that he developed his own plan. Derek's strategy was to do everything that Cole would say. The hero really hoped he would offer something sensible. It was obvious he was a complete idiot. Everyone gathered again at the stadium. People came to support the players involved in elimination. Who would fly out of the competition today? Time had come to find out. Cole teleported to the place, in appearance a regular city map. Derek asked about what kind of plan and whether he had one. The hero said they would go to the center. Their goal was to take the seizure point. The murder points were not interesting. As soon as the competition began, they would run forward and try to first take the center. Derek was in panic. Among the rivals were Freddie and Emily. They would probably attack everyone who tried to occupy this area. Should they go straight to the lion's den? Cole told Derek that with such a mood he could go home right now. The individual offered to think everything through carefully. However, preparation time would end soon. As soon as the game began, they would run to the center. Cole said to prepare. 10 seconds were left. Not a single participant owned air step and air anchor as well as he did. First, you needed to get to the capture point and try to detain other players. Emily held evil. Because of Cole, she had to fight with 3 opponents at once. If not for him, they would not be here at all. Freddie asked what she was thinking about. This was obvious. Emily again remembered how Cole was healing him. She grabbed him and said not to lose heart. He needed to focus on goals. All that was now required was not to make stupid mistakes. Freddie understood, however. He believed that Cole was not as simple as it seemed to her. Emily knew and had already thought out everything. In the 3 versus 3 game, she failed to win only because she struggled to hide her skills. This time she would use all her abilities and would do everything possible to avoid defeat. Time had come to stop bothering. If she impressed the judges, she would not be excluded. Emily offered a standard strategy to fight Cole in close combat and take him out with one blow. The hero asked why Derek was not here yet. However, the individual simply could not keep up. Cole took a good position. He offered not to sit for a long time. As soon as Derek arrived, they would occupy the capture point. Derek still doubted because all players would focus on them. However, Cole had a plan. Then he told the individual not to rush too much and not to be careful so that others would notice him. At this moment, from such a huge distance, Cole shot one participant. An ordinary shot in the head, however, so powerful. It was very similar to the effect of the broadcast from the survival game. It resembled Ethan's level. No, Cole had already managed to surpass him in his past life. Now he surpassed himself. The hero shot and killed another player. Derek was scared of loud cotton and said. Cole replied that it was him. The hero said to turn at 9 hours and 3/4 to continue moving in that direction. Cole would be on the second floor of a blue glass building. However, was it not to clean the hero of any point of murder? Linda could not believe it. Michael only grinned, he said. Cole was a magnificent shooter. It seemed that the individual really had talent. Linda agreed, however, it was quite possible that he recently received some ability. Michael recalled that Cole demonstrated his shooting skills on the day of participant selection. However, if his skills were already good, then why did he need to look for an artifact in the survival game? The choice of weapons was strange. Leading people practically did not use them even for training. He probably managed to improve complete flowering. As far as Linda knew, it aroused new talents. Suddenly, Adam entered the judges. They were alarmed, however. The chairman said not to get up. He was told here that some interesting participant appeared on the show. He wanted to look at him. Michael asked if the chairman was looking closely at the candidate. However, not really. Unfortunately, Adam's proposal had already been rejected. He admitted Cole was a very brave boy. If he knew that everything would turn out like that, he would have raised bets. However, the chairman did not focus on the past. He preferred to continue moving forward and look for new solutions in the way. Adam hoped that fate would still bring him together with Cole in the future. All three judges were in shock. It seemed that for them, this was a surprise. However, these were the facts. Michael approved his positive attitude. He was interested in what this cunning old man conceived. Meanwhile, Derek was on the spot. Cole told him to climb the second floor and go to Office 1701. So where was the hero hiding? As Derek suspected, nobody was there. Probably most players decided to stay outside. At the moment, they were simply observing the situation in the arena. Going there was extremely dangerous now. Derek asked about the plan. He wanted to know details. Cole only said not to worry about other participants. He asked the individual's opinion about who was easier to overcome, Freddie or Emily. Derek turned pale when he realized he was choosing who he would fight. Cole calmed him. You needed to hold out for only a minute. In the meantime, the individual would restrain one of them. He would defend the capture point. Derek's brain exploded. Cole called him. It turns out everything was serious. Derek still could not believe they really were going to crank this. They came to the place and occupied the capture point. If they allowed other players to enter the busy territory or leave the point themselves, the meter of time for holding the captured territory would be rejoiced. Time before completion of the assignment was 1 minute. Cole smiled. Time had come to start. His team occupied a capture point. Emily was furious. Now the hero saw it was not enough just shooting players from shelter. Freddie mentioned the possibility of hidden supplies scattered across this terrain, though he doubted their existence. Rather than being modeled after any actual settlement, this urban layout served exclusively for survival training scenarios. Advancing toward the objective without proper preparation would be foolish. Such recklessness would guarantee defeat and force them to retreat. Within the survival arena's boundaries, a formidable relic lay concealed. Without its influence, victory would have been theirs. Previously, Cole's exceptional navigation skills and swift movement had secured his escape. However, the confined area around the control zone would severely restrict his movement options. Perhaps holding the position isn't his true intention. He might simply seek to draw opponents' focus before abandoning the location mid-conflict. Emily instructed Freddie to pay close attention. Cole's strategy had become transparent to them. Brute force wasn't his specialty. Within such restricted terrain, agility would prove useless. Certainly he would attempt to exploit the confusion. This disorder would emerge once competitors began battling one another for territorial control. Emily and Freddie had no intention of engaging in combat over the contested area. Nevertheless, they needed to disrupt Cole's scheme before pandemonium erupted. A warning about casualties interrupted their planning. Multiple contestants had entered the structure, yet none emerged alive. Consider whether Cole truly intended to capitalize on the mayhem by simply evading them while containing other pursuers. Freddy announced their predicament. 20 seconds remained until mission completion. Derek understood they would battle to their final breath. He questioned whether their strategy would succeed. Any enemy entering the chamber would immediately become Cole's target, and should he miss, or his mark successfully avoid the shot, Derek would join the fray. The young man hoped everything would proceed smoothly. Just then, a contestant charged into the room. His desire was honorable combat, yet Cole's bullet found him instead. Another elimination. The following challenger demolished the barrier and took cover behind the rubble. Projectiles couldn't penetrate solid walls. No matter. Derek existed for precisely such situations. The youth seized his blade and struck at the opponent, though the target wasn't isolated, accompanied by a female who remained hidden. Using his enhanced perception, Cole determined the optimal strike trajectory. Consequently, another squad met its end. Half the allotted time had elapsed. 32 seconds remained for mission completion. Continuing at this pace would ensure their success. Yet Cole harbored different ambitions. His objective encompassed universal elimination. During the protagonist's distraction, Emily and Freddy infiltrated the structure. Before Cole could fire, they had already closed significant distance. Suddenly, the entire edifice began collapsing. The building would crumble immediately. The control point lay in ruins. What options remained? 17 seconds until mission completion. Emily urged Freddy toward immediate action given their limited time. Within this brief window, Cole discharged additional rounds, claiming 3 more participants. The finale approached. Emily felt helpless. Our protagonist's firing position remained unclear to her. Somehow she needed vision through the massive dust cloud. Regardless of his prowess, he couldn't handle such overwhelming numbers single-handedly. Everything. Just like the Golden Era. His squad had encountered certain hardships then. They risked dropping to 9th-ranking position. Urgent measures became necessary. 4 members of his team found themselves cornered by adversaries. Meanwhile, their opponents maintained perfect records without a single loss. Cole's team faced annihilation, yet he managed escape. Victory was mandatory. 9th place was unacceptable. During that period, our protagonist similarly destroyed the building. Spectators believed they witnessed suicidal behavior as Cole prepared to abandon the match. However, an unexpected development unfolded. Our hero refused surrender so easily. The structure teetered on collapse. Visibility vanished amid the rising debris cloud. Even under such circumstances, Cole maintained pinpoint accuracy. He eliminated 3 opponents simultaneously. Each team retained 1 member. Audiences anticipated witnessing heptakala. No participant in league history had achieved this feat. Unfortunately, Cole's energy reserves depleted. Regrettably, no miracle occurred. Our hero succumbed to an enemy blade, relegating his team to 9th position. A single minor action separated them from triumph. That same action propelled our hero toward actual events. This time would differ completely. Cole possessed abundant energy, preventing future misfires. Therefore, Emily and Freddy faced elimination. Officials reacted with astonishment. Cole had eliminated every participant. The mission involved competition for territorial control. Yet our hero not only secured it, but eliminated all competition. Admittedly, Lindy acknowledged this individual's professional-level combat ability. Michael noted Cole's weapon mastery. Achieving such results seemed impossible without advanced marksmanship training. The official recognized this during selection. This individual clearly possessed potential. Bill concurred, but wondered how Cole maintained visibility of other participants within the dust storm. What abilities must someone possess to select such unconventional weaponry at such youth? Michael theorized Cole possessed unique targeting capabilities. This same skill provided confidence in mission success, regardless of circumstances. That explained everything. The community expressed wild enthusiasm. Audience appreciation for this episode was predictable. Cole's universal elimination was rarely witnessed. Such events seemed impossible. Reality proved less fascinating. Cole maintained an advantage through previous strategic experience. Direct confrontation with rivals would have yielded ordinary results. Cole earned special recognition. His mastery rank advanced, gaining the legendary Marksman talent. Derek questioned whether our hero had concealed his abilities throughout. He once requested to examine the firearm. Cole never mentioned possessing such extensive energy reserves. Derek wondered how our hero pinpointed exact enemy locations within the dust cloud. Cole claimed intuitive ability. Derek chuckled. Our hero treated his soul companion with such detachment. Wait. The young man had declared himself Cole's only friend. Our hero hadn't considered this. Currently, his circle truly contained no potential companions. Apart from this individual, was Cole's social interaction so restricted? Officials approached the platform. Linda stated that hunter status wasn't universal. Frequently, talent alone determined everything. Truthfully, this seemed rather harsh. The program showcased only the most gifted and capable individuals. Those hunters capable of reaching extraordinary heights and achieving league success. This was even more merciless. Conversely, those unfortunate enough to be eliminated retained future opportunities for personal achievement. What should successful candidates do now? Perhaps celebrate their victory. Remember, this represents merely the journey's beginning. Linda welcomed the hunters to the league. Officials rapidly identified the elite performers. Within this time frame, they recognized several outstanding individuals. Now they must undergo final evaluation, specifically the ultimate examination. Naturally, this followed the league's standard format, 7-member team combat. Team formation would occur today with the actual match scheduled for next week. Champions and victors would emerge. Incidentally, an exceptionally distinguished guest would attend this competition. Outside the stadium, numerous club representatives competed for Cole's attention. They requested brief meetings. Generally, joining a team matching personal expectations would be ideal. Therefore, our hero invited everyone to relocate somewhere more appropriate for discussion. Since they had gathered specifically for Cole, he suggested beginning negotiations by examining terms. William represented the Seoul Academy national team as head coach. They would facilitate debut in second, then first division. Student exchange programs existed alongside personal coaching for international competition preparation. Cole interrupted William, noting he wasn't alone, requesting brief presentations of their unique offerings. The representative proposed signing bonuses, 100 million initially plus 200 million annual compensation. Another candidate offered 300 million immediately with steady yearly income. 300 million for team membership represented an extremely attractive proposition, yet Cole preferred selecting teammates personally. Alternatively, he might decline all offers entirely. A different representative matched these terms while remaining open to additional negotiations. Our hero expressed interest in personally recruiting team members. Representatives remained silent. Obviously, they wouldn't consent. Today's meeting concluded. The gentleman provided contact information, promising discussions with leadership about improved terms and increased compensation. Certainly, many rookies would find such offers generous and impressive. Cole noticed one individual lingering behind. Perhaps he wished to discuss alternative matters. Youssef served as PER team recruiter. He believed they could accommodate our hero's requirements. Youssef presented his card. Strangely, Cole lacked familiarity with their organization. Had they competed in first or second division, he would likely recognize them. Apparently, they belonged to third division with mediocre performance. Despite budget limitations, Cole could assemble teams according to personal preference. Many participants faced contract expiration next season with uncertain renewal prospects. Since this coincided with rookie recruitment, they could consider Cole's input. Obviously, substantial rewards weren't expected, but they offered team member selection opportunities. Cole harbored numerous questions. Would his squad consist entirely of newcomers? Youssef suggested meeting their director to address these concerns. He appeared willing to accept any conditions simply to recruit Cole. The representative requested careful consideration and potential director meetings. What were the options? Cole could join prestigious 3rd Division teams, receiving substantial welcome bonuses plus limited partner selection authority, or affiliate with PER, a struggling organization offering complete team assembly freedom. Ultimately, everything depended on Cole's decision. Derek couldn't determine our hero's choice. He awaited our hero's return. His recommendations held no interest. Derek would remain at Seoul Academy regardless, so he waited outside for Cole. He wanted details about the recruitment process. Cole received promises of 300 million won plus excellent salary. Generally, all recruiters offered similar packages. Derek expressed amazement. Apparently, his academy compensation was inadequate, which seemed peculiar. The academy maintained prestigious educational standards, with training quality matching other institutions. Derek couldn't understand Cole's team preference, though our hero remained undecided. Derek questioned such hesitation, suggesting immediate acceptance, before Cole explained his desire for personal teammate selection. His expectations seemed excessive. Derek agreed Cole possessed considerable skill, yet they remained novices. Demanding terms seemed premature. Perhaps Derek was correct, but these expectations only seemed large given our hero's current position. Successfully demonstrating his value and necessity would make refusal impossible for teams. He agreed with Derek while refusing to accept offers lacking additional conditions. Since Cole's reputation required enhancement, he needed to develop fame and recognition properly. Recruiters also approached Freddy. He received offers likely less profitable than others, yet nervously announced his decision to remain with Seoul Academy. They offered increased signing bonuses for breaking his current contract. Emily messaged suddenly. She knew recruiting discussions were pointless. Better to avoid such conversations entirely. Freddy wondered about Cole's destination. Our hero was literally Korea's premier hunter marksman. The previous match situation grew genuinely tense, yet he never missed targets. Cole would soon join some team, reuniting him and Freddy in 3rd Division competition, potentially extending beyond that level where excitement would truly begin. The young man anticipated this moment eagerly. Derek questioned Cole's workshop visit. Nothing required repairs. They planned participation in Hunter League matches. Obviously, equipment purchases were necessary. Derek assumed air movement and anchoring devices would suffice. Apparently, the youth never observed. Professional combat. Appropriate gear could completely transform match outcomes. Countless different energy-powered devices existed in various configurations and dimensions. A female workshop employee greeted them, recognizing their first visit. The woman assumed they needed gadget repairs or weapon maintenance. Before they could respond, she suggested examining energy-powered equipment. Upon entering, Derek stood speechless. This location represented Hunter Paradise. The woman would explain proper energy device selection. Her guidance would prove invaluable. Cole mentioned the fool behind him apparently hadn't encountered such equipment previously. Currently, the world contained vast arrays of inventions resembling air anchors and movement devices. Generally, all energy equipment fell into 4 categories covering offense, defense, and mobility. The 4th category technically didn't exist. It contained devices unsuitable for other classifications. These possessed diverse characteristics and functions, since they were typically custom-made. Derek thought they came for such items. Obviously, acquisition proved difficult, necessitating simpler choices. Frequently, teams ordered equipment for specific strategies during matches or battles against particular enemies. The woman displayed basic equipment. This stone generated protective energy barriers around users. Operation was straightforward. Derek found it strange that he'd never seen anyone use such devices. He certainly would have noticed. The problem was barrier failure required restoration time. Therefore, such equipment was typically reserved for emergency situations only. Primarily, long-range combatants used such devices during matches for protection against attacks. Equipment selection always depended on specific objectives or tactical approaches. Properly chosen gear significantly enhanced arena performance. Cole tested energy manipulation equipment, asking Derek about suitable player types. Apparently, attachment to something was necessary. Projectile compatibility would be excellent. Ridiculous. This definitely wouldn't function with Cole's firearms. Bullets were too small for attachments. Although, wait. Rather than bullet modification, our hero discharged energy that assumed any configuration. Derek demonstrated air teleportation devices. These should suit long-range fighters for maintaining optimal distances. Cole examined the device before immediately aiming at Derek's head. Excellent selection. Such equipment enabled instantaneous close combat transitions. Derek suggested acquiring everything while forgetting energy limitations. Device quantity restrictions also existed. One air manipulation device would satisfy Cole's needs. Determining Derek's requirements held greater importance. The youth remained uncertain about selections. Options seemed overwhelming. Long-range weapons weren't his specialty, eliminating energy enhancement needs. Energy absorption devices seemed unhelpful, and air manipulation appeared too complex for his skill level. Cole retrieved additional items from shelving. Derek assumed he was joking. Everyone reconvened at the stadium. Linda announced the final competition in 6 days, with team declarations and arena map presentations now scheduled. The championship battlefield featured impenetrable forests and massive mountain ranges. Competition would occur on the divine battleground. This promised excitement. The realm was crafted resembling tower structures. Cole had previously experienced such terrain, understanding its characteristics and anticipated challenges. Based on prior combat performance, officials divided participants into 2 squads. Blue team consisted of Emily, Sean, and Dustin, while red included Cole, Freddie, Derek, and Liam. With advanced team announcements, officials anticipated witnessing coordinated teamwork during competition. Unified squads would form within 1 week. Michael declared this match truly exceptional, because first-generation hunters and current Hunter Association leadership would participate. Adam Steinberg would assume neutral monster roles during competition. He maintained high participant expectations, deciding to contribute and share invaluable expertise. Adam encouraged proper enjoyment of the conclusion. They would reconvene in 1 week. New talents should dominate this stage. After recording, Cole approached the chairman. He returned the business card, explaining his return. Recruiter Yusuf recommended meeting the team owner. PR had occupied 3rd Division's lowest positions for several years. Honestly, our hero had never heard of them. Following recruiter meetings, he recalled past life moments when discovery occurred. That this team's owner was actually Adam. This revelation created genuine sensation. The chairman fixed Cole with an intense stare. Actually, media sources reported different facts. The team maintained fictional ownership. How had Cole deduced this? Nothing escaped our hero's notice. Bold declaration. This represented our hero's ability to perceive through deception. Cole understood everything about Adam, all his hidden secrets. What would the chairman do now? Adam hadn't expected our hero possessed such insight. Obviously, continued concealment proved futile. He then introduced himself. Adam Steinberg, PR team owner and Hunters Association chairman. He believed their approach with Yusuf was unsuccessful. However, Cole seemed to have reconsidered. Caught, our hero agreed to join the team conditionally, requiring Adam to share organizational control in return. Later, the chairman informed Yusuf the situation was certainly intriguing. Frankly, he feared Cole might create complications. He questioned whether they truly needed him. Adam never imagined membership would require transferring partial authority. Clearly, Cole, Korea's premier marksman, could display some arrogance, but this exceeded reasonable limits. This individual handled preliminary trials excellently, yet couldn't be considered truly professional. Cole expressed confidence in final match victory. Furthermore, he claimed capability to defeat not only participants, but also Adam. Yusuf was shocked by such audacity. Obviously, the chairman wouldn't engage at full strength. Should Cole actually manage victory, his demands might prove reasonable. Yusuf doubted such outcomes were possible. The most amusing aspect wasn't this. Our hero stated something when Adam accepted this wager. Specifically, that successful victory would result in Cole hiring the chairman rather than vice versa. Yusuf stood dumbfounded. Adam found this entertaining. Certainly, should this actually occur, our hero would be correct. Yet the chairman wouldn't surrender without resistance. He suggested observing Cole's hidden advantages. Meanwhile, our hero assembled everyone. The team members accepted his leadership without objection. Cole thought Freddy should demonstrate greater initiative. Such intense focus. His concentrated attention began troubling our hero. Cole proposed beginning with tactical discussions. Everyone acknowledged him and Freddy as the squad's strongest members. Planning would build upon this foundation. Like their opponents, successful navigation of this divine battlefield required initial advancement, followed by strategic combat initiation. The team would operate from this principle. However, since the chairman represented a new variable, some members, including Cole, would need to employ alternative tactics. Initially, everyone except Cole, Freddy, and Derek would gather advancement resources and eliminate monsters. Meanwhile, the three of them would immediately proceed to neutral monster territory upon match commencement. Primarily, they needed to locate Chairman Adam. Indeed, Cole planned his defeat. Team members reacted with shock. Liam declared him insane. How could three individuals defeat the chairman? True, Adam promised restrained combat, yet still. Liam recalled Cole's excellent elimination performance and masterful survival game completion. Had he truly imagined himself the ultimate hunter? Liam considered him overconfident. Apparently, during elimination, our hero created numerous adversaries, though time constraints prevented confrontation. Progress was essential. Freddy intervened then. He acknowledged everyone understood the chairman's strength, including, naturally, our hero's strategic planning. Freddy harbored no doubt about prepared strategies. This individual seemed ready to eliminate Cole previously, yet now offered protection. Somehow strange. Certainly, our hero wouldn't charge ahead recklessly. His plan might seem absurd, but they should listen. Officials gathered to briefly remind audiences of final match regulations. 2 7-member teams participated in standard Hunter League competition, with terrain determining outcomes. Each match divided into distinct phases. First came the farming phase. Participants collected resources and eliminated monsters. Mission phases followed, with hunters attempting to capture neutral monsters or claim their territories. Finally, team combat phases commenced. As easily predicted, participants engaged in 7 versus 7 battles. Mission objectives varied according to terrain characteristics, making event prediction nearly impossible. Nevertheless, this finale would prove truly special because Adam Steinberg would join competition, so everyone already understood participant requirements. What would the chairman's arena role involve? This time, he chose neutral monster status. Essentially, he would function like ordinary monsters. Remember that Adam was a genuine professional and formidable opponent for contestants. Therefore, officials implemented certain restrictions. All his statistics would decrease by 2 levels, reducing his advantages over other participants since every difference mattered significantly. Additionally, 14 individuals would oppose the chairman. Observing this would prove fascinating. Everyone, like Linda, awaited the finals impatiently. The match would undoubtedly prove entertaining. Michael supported Cole throughout every program stage, earning devoted fan status. However, Linda wouldn't dispute this assessment. She believed another participant would claim final victory. Michael questioned her opinion regarding the chairman's neutral territory decision. Linda theorized he wanted personal meetings with each participant before personally determining winners. Precisely. If so, Cole could no longer showcase his talents effectively. His advantages included mobility and precision. However, these wouldn't assist against the chairman. Adam specialized in close combat. He possessed devastating attacks and remarkable opponent pursuit abilities. Ranged combatants couldn't compete, though Linda noted Adam would face imposed limitations. Michael argued that power or restricted capabilities weren't the issue. The chairman wouldn't yield easily. Bill believed nothing was impossible within the Hunter League. Outcomes remained unpredictable. Generally, he agreed with Michael while believing premature speculation was inadvisable. Ultimately, the final battlefield was the Divine Battleground. Only moments remained before the finale. Thousands of comments flooded in. The chairman would demonstrate his abilities publicly for the first time. Fortunately, the arena matched Cole's memories exactly. Confidence in plan adherence was assured. Final regulations followed standard format. Competition would continue until complete team elimination. Previously, dungeons called towers appeared randomly and unpredictably worldwide. This created hunter conflicts, though relatively peaceful solutions emerged eventually. Towers contained incredibly powerful artifacts, naturally preventing sharing among discoverers. Acquiring treasures required hunters to battle not only monsters, but also each other. Thus originated the Hunter League. Consequently, many competition arenas replicated actual tower structures. Logically, first-generation hunters possessed advantages through superior arena familiarity compared to newcomers. All competitors materialized on the battlefield. Cole's team members agreed to follow established strategy. Freddie and Derek accompanied him. No retreat remained possible. Team B, led by Emily, secured territorial control. They apparently chose advancement through monster elimination, with their subsequent action likely involving chairman confrontation. This represented standard and most effective tactics under these circumstances. Despite the chairman's two-level statistical reduction, he remained superior to beginners. Team A members appeared to follow different tactics. Only 4 individuals hunted monsters, while Cole, Freddie, and Derek selected alternative approaches. They advanced directly toward the chairman. Linda declared these individuals doomed to failure since they were considerably weaker than Adam and numbered only 3. Michael concurred while suggesting they observe their developed strategy. The chairman occupied his designated position. Someone was already approaching rapidly. He wondered about their intentions. Perhaps they expected to remain undetected while maintaining concealment. Multiple projectiles suddenly struck Adam. Such quantities wouldn't affect him significantly. He questioned whether this represented Cole's complete preparation. During Adam's distraction, Derek and Freddie launched rear attacks. However, their movements were too sluggish, allowing the chairman to repel all assaults. Cole had seemed promising. Yet if this represented their full capability, disappointment was inevitable. He expected Cole would provide surprises. Adam observed only meaningless sword movements. Massive shapes loomed above the chairman. The divine battlefield once housed entire giant civilizations. Subsequently, for unknown reasons, they all became petrified. Interestingly, stone-imprisoned giants hadn't perished. Previously, Cole had studied this region extensively since Hunter League finals typically occurred in this arena. He had learned giant awakening methods. The team planned statue revival. Freddie theorized artifacts might be hidden here like in survival matches. Cole sensed fracturing sounds. Successfully breaking stones at correct locations would cause crumbling, with imprisoned giants awakening and emerging. Derek remained uncertain. Perhaps these were mere speculation, though Freddie believed our hero possessed special abilities. Assuming giant liberation occurred, would they provide assistance? No, extended imprisonment was too prolonged. They likely lost sanity completely and would probably attack indiscriminately. Derek questioned the strategy. He grasped the concept, but wondered whether giants would consider Adam friendly and avoid attacks. If Cole's reasoning proved accurate, this shouldn't occur. However, team members also faced potential danger. For such situations, they prepared single-use devices. Derek finally understood everything. This might actually succeed. There it was. Cole hadn't intended direct attacks. He simply planned sabotage execution. His actual target was the statues. How was this possible? He somehow discovered their revival potential. Perhaps everything occurred according to initial planning, with Cole personally awakening them. But how? Giants began attacking Adam. The chairman would manage. He worried about other concerns. The three individuals vanished completely. Adam realized they were hiding beneath invisibility cloaks. Quite useful equipment. However, these weren't universally effective and sometimes proved uncomfortable since prolonged concealment remained impossible. Generally, such cloaks lacked hunter popularity for these reasons. The chairman assumed they wouldn't engage him directly, yet Cole fired a projectile. He had genuinely managed to corner Adam. The chairman hadn't encountered such situations recently. Impressive performance. He praised Cole for excellent work. Nevertheless, victory shouldn't be assumed prematurely. They now faced equal conditions. Cole must demonstrate his true capabilities. The stadium expressed shock while officials couldn't comprehend our hero's statue targeting. He knew awakening methods. The chairman evaded team attacks, yet deflected bullets eventually struck giants. His position proved highly unfavorable. Cole pretended to target Adam while aiming at statue fractures. He then concealed himself beneath invisible cloaks, redirecting frenzied giant attention toward the chairman. Michael couldn't believe Cole had actually succeeded. First-generation hunters weren't easily defeated. Our hero would need greater efforts for victory achievement. Cole attempted giant targeting, though Adam deflected this projectile. He wouldn't fall for identical tactics twice. The chairman awaited our hero's next strategy. Enhanced perception revealed necessary shield locations. Cole fired again despite apparent futility. This was the objective. Projectiles collided mid-air. Ricochet effects occurred. They separated from each other, striking the giant precisely. Managing two giants would challenge even first-generation hunters. However, he appeared determined. Cole contacted Derek and Freddy. The team members concealed themselves in vegetation near monsters. Liam and others would arrive shortly. They maintained special planning. Liam and teammates eliminated numerous monsters. The youth didn't understand Cole's specific requirements, though he represented the only trusted member among the four. Before the finale, Cole provided explicit instructions. First, they should eliminate monsters carefully without casualties while collecting advancement items. Second, avoiding blue team encounters was essential. Third, combat engagement was absolutely forbidden. Even during direct confrontations, Cole had prepared escape strategies for the team. Emily's squad arrived. They searched for opponents. Everything proceeded as Cole predicted. Emily promised herself victory this time. Liam summoned teammates, initiating retreat. With Team B pursuing them, distance maintenance became crucial. Liam questioned definite success possibilities while knowing failure wasn't acceptable. He instructed others to advance directly toward the designated location. Upon Emily's team arrival, they discovered this was neutral monster territory. She screamed in terror as giants roared. Liam couldn't comprehend the situation at all. Cole had promised Chairman combat first, yet chaos was unfolding instead. Our hero requested time delays from Liam. The youth agreed, though not extensively. Cole needed only 3 minutes. Liam would observe everything personally afterward while currently dodging stones. Our hero informed Freddy and Derek that immediate action was necessary before detection. Following his signal, Emily's team elimination was scheduled. Derek and Freddy discarded cloaks and attacked Team B individually. Emily instructed others to avoid giant collisions while remembering to evade flying debris. Combat was just beginning. They needed red team focus. Meanwhile, Emily created healing spheres and launched counterattacks. Until she observed Cole's shots, Emily wasn't mistaken. Her protective ring deflected the projectile. Did our hero truly believe she would remain unprepared? Cole had apparently underestimated her capabilities. Plan B activation commenced. Our hero retrieved energy absorption equipment. Initially, he disconnected components, now energy manipulation. Cole used this to modify projectile configurations. The weapon became considerably heavier, though shot power increased dramatically. Another elimination occurred, despite Emily's protective barriers proving inadequate. Even from distance, Liam observed the spectacular effect. Our hero couldn't believe success. Through protective shelter effects, Emily's injuries healed rapidly. She still risked elimination by these opponents. Hunter League offered two advancement methods. The first seemed obvious: simply eliminate monsters appearing on dungeon maps. Though alternative options involved rival disposal, Emily faced elimination. Her team approached defeat. Incidentally, Adam also appeared finished. That performance was excellent. He hadn't engaged anyone at full strength recently, and wanted to resume previous discussions. He genuinely desired to hear Cole's words. Our hero didn't believe they required further conversation. The representative advised against concealment. He expressed sincere admiration for Cole's tactics. Current generations relied solely on overwhelming force. However, historically, hunters also protected towers, necessitating strategic planning. Thoughtful preparation guaranteed success. At that moment, Adam launched an axe at Cole. Remarkably, he determined location through voice alone. Our hero escaped using air anchor equipment. Giant combat certainly exhausted him significantly. The team could now defeat the chairman. Yet when Derek attacked, Adam eliminated him with single axe movements while deflecting bullets. Unsurprisingly, elite hunters proved superior to 3rd Division participants. They had accomplished everything possible. Liam also faced elimination. Apparently, only Cole and Freddy remained. Adam thought our hero would express surprise, yet he didn't. Chairman abilities matched Cole's predictions exactly. The individual hoped our hero maintained contingency planning. Cole shouted as Freddy launched himself at the chairman in desperate assault. However, this proved futile. Adam immediately leaped upward, impaling the youth with his spear. Thus, Cole stood alone. The chairman wasn't merely close combat specialist, but also a tank fighter. This represented ranged combatants' worst nightmare. Cole faced extreme disadvantage currently. Adam attacked, declaring victory while preparing for elimination. Our hero disagreed with this assessment. He produced energy absorption equipment. Powerful explosions occurred. Stadium and officials held their breath. Cole and Adam lay exhausted. Our hero had actually succeeded. He utilized energy absorption equipment to create match stalemates. That individual truly embodied this competition's monster. Cole exhaled with relief before ascending the platform. However, complete disappointment followed. Had he successfully evaded the chairman's spear and delivered the explosive device, our hero would have achieved victory. Derek approached, advising against dejection. Victory should bring pleasure, yet why celebrate? Cole achieved stalemate results. Freddy expressed surprise at our hero's ignorance. He responded that specifics didn't matter. Winners, including Adam, mounted the stage. The chairman observed Cole with a peculiar expression. The ceremony commenced. Annually, approximately 100,000 individuals awaken worldwide, each harboring dreams of hunter careers. Nevertheless, this path proves challenging. Authentic hunters require bravery, intelligence, power, and naturally fortune. Simply stated, not every participant can achieve genuine hunter status. Today, one contestant successfully demonstrated worthiness for this distinguished title. The next generation hunter champion is Cole Phillips. He managed to display superior performance. Rather peculiar. In previous existence, he had claimed countless similar honors. Yet remarkably, genuine happiness emerged for the first time in ages. Following the ceremony, his mother, who opposed his hunter aspirations, unexpectedly changed her perspective. All family members watched the program and expressed delight. His father worried most intensely, though he wouldn't acknowledge this. Previously, our hero participated in lower league teams. Obviously, conditions there weren't optimal. Consequently, parents maintained deep concerns. This time, everything would prove completely different. One minor matter required resolution. Team membership needed settling. Cole approached Chairman Adam. The gentleman inquired about the youth's purpose. Such a shrewd elder. Cole achieved victory, so he came seeking his team. However, Adam questioned the fairness. Our hero won solely through giant assistance. The duel concluded in stalemate. Cole threatened departure. Adam seized his arm, explaining he was merely joking. Don't be so tense, they were now allies. The chairman would grant Cole partnership. This individual's abilities genuinely impressed him. Our hero extended his hand to Adam. He anticipated collaborative work. The chairman reciprocated the handshake, expressing mutual sentiment. Morass represents a globally renowned weapons manufacturer that not only produces hunter equipment, but also provides comprehensive evaluations. Today, Cole arrived to claim his prize and submit orders. Derek accompanied him since he would soon compete in 3rd Division League. Why not commission personal weaponry? Our hero remained puzzled about Michael's presence as escort. Derek questioned the master about differences between custom and standard armaments. Michael requested informal address since they weren't filming. Certainly, distinctions were considerable. Custom equipment was designed for specific individuals considering unique combat approaches. They entered Morass' workshop where a consulting representative greeted them, having been notified of their visit. The required workshop occupied B3 section. Morass contained 4 total departments. Each received alphabetical rankings from A through D with weapon quality produced in specific sections, matching their letter designations. Section B maintained decent standards. Derek groaned about never having workshop access opportunities. The facility was absolutely incredible. The youth inquired about Morass weapon pricing. He felt certain custom equipment cost significantly more than standard items. Michael suggested postponing this discussion while addressing crucial details first. Before weapon commissioning, clients must select from available basic templates. For instance, he displayed his 7-pronged brown sword. Standard models formed the foundation for all weaponry. Subsequently, weapons underwent modification and functionality adjustment according to individual abilities and combat styles. When selecting his weapon, Michael created sketches roughly indicating his requirements. He drew standard swords with 6 branches plus 7 curved-edge swords designed to expand opponent wounds during withdrawal, maximizing inflicted damage. Morass' workshop crafted such excellent swords using only crude sketches. Michael needed only to convey general product concepts. Master's responsibilities involved transforming client imagination into finished weapons, though understanding suitable weapon types and intended usage remained essential. Derek pondered this while Cole would acquire identical equipment from his previous existence. Though Derek's choices proved quite fascinating, he examined everything before selecting rapiers designed for piercing attacks. The youth wanted energy-enhanced speed increases, plus rapier illumination during speed enhancement activation. Michael laughed, noting that style considerations were also important. Derek thought like typical gamers. He then asked whether Cole had decided on weaponry. Korean hunters didn't utilize firearms, so necessary models weren't available. However, magical weapon transformation remained accessible. He selected an ordinary component and requested processing. Michael nodded, encouraging maximum privilege utilization. Within moments, this unremarkable block transformed into elegant firearms. Workers expressed amazement. He accomplished this so quickly and effortlessly. People consistently marveled at Cole's abilities, though he couldn't adapt to such reactions. Every country hosting Hunter League matches maintained Morass workshop branches, making competition inevitable. Facilities constantly competed for supremacy, focusing primarily on 2 metrics: manufactured weapon quality and customer prestige. Currently, Korean Morass workshop branches couldn't claim outstanding reputations. Korean athlete performances on international stages proved completely disastrous. Participants didn't promote Korean-made equipment, only damaging Morass' reputation. However, Cole could help restore Korean branch credibility. He not only won the program, but also demonstrated completely novel weapon creation possibilities. Korean Morass Workshop Branch Director Chloe Parker wouldn't waste such opportunities. She thanked Cole for his attention and suggested immediate business discussions. Initially, Chloe questioned his equipment satisfaction. Since this represented program organizer prizes, choices seemed limited. Chloe explained that if his weapon creation required only energy raw materials, they could provide something entirely special. The woman retrieved and opened a briefcase. Chloe wished to propose something. She and Cole could arrange unlimited rental agreements. Our hero would freely utilize branch-provided energy ingots for personal weapon creation. In exchange, she requested cooperation and periodic assistance in new equipment development using his abilities. Rather straightforward and profitable terms. This sounded certainly wonderful. What would the workshop do when everyone discovered Cole personally created weapons? He understood her scheme. If our hero used their provided energy ingots for weapon creation, they would convince audiences that branch masters learned to process highest quality energy materials. Chloe would then request additional equipment creation, providing the branch with complete high-class weapon collections. Chloe completely forgot mentioning their requirement for Cole's non-disclosure agreement signature. In this case, Cole should probably demonstrate his abilities immediately at headquarters. Chloe grew angry, questioning his objectives. Sponsorship would be preferable, our hero replied. The woman expressed surprise, considering free weapon provision adequate, though exceptions could be made for him. The branch would provide necessary financial support. However, Cole didn't request personal assistance. PER, the team he planned joining, required help. Essentially, he demanded sponsorship for a third division team failing every season. Chloe questioned why PER. If he considered alternative teams, they would gladly provide financing. Cole replied he had already signed contracts with them. Chloe became speechless. They preferred sponsoring individuals who would promote their brand and enhance company image, while PER wouldn't contribute to this. Cole understood, though such deal conditions seemed quite reasonable to him. After all, he would help create weapons exclusively for Korean Morass branches. Their representative would contact PR soon. Well, their representative would contact PR in the near future. Every aspect would be thoroughly examined afterward. Chloe and Cole exchanged a firm handshake. The protagonist arrived at the sports venue. The attendance he witnessed matched his expectations for a third division league encounter. Per and ESP would face off in competition. Securing a victory against the team ranked 9th seemed entirely achievable. Indeed, the Per squad had faced recent challenges, yet opportunities for redemption remained within reach. The squad possessed genuine potential to surpass their competitors during this encounter. Contests for second and third tier participants take place within digital environments. However, Premier League tournaments occur in actual dungeon locations. Consequently, the probability of sustaining injuries during gameplay rises dramatically. Nevertheless, hunters from Divisions 2 and 3 face minimal danger. What causes their apprehension? Cole remained stunned by the complete absence of combat. His arrival was motivated by discovering latent abilities within this squad. Yet Per was suffering defeat and found themselves compelled to withdraw. The players had been cornered completely. Such a devastating conclusion awaited them. Maintaining this trajectory, Per would finish without securing any wins this season. Cole felt overwhelmed with disbelief. Victory had never been theirs. Had his judgment been flawed? Perhaps seeking another squad would have been wiser. Joining a group with promising potential and skilled members would have been far more logical, enabling easier advancement to a first division squad in the future. Nevertheless, Cole refused to surrender. Some resolution must be discovered. Initially, eliminating current members was essential. Release anyone possible. The protagonist simply hoped they might locate at least one capable hunter. His astonishment grew upon learning that Per headquarters occupied a residential structure. Though considering it further, his initial team also lacked financial backing. residing in a standard dwelling. Perhaps the situation appeared less dire than initial impressions suggested. Upon entering, Cole detected shouting. The players expressed frustration over their defeat. Mutual accusations of cowardly conduct flew while Yusuf attempted to restore calm. The trainer requested composure and rational discussion of events. Such tense team dynamics were hardly surprising. Their performance was truly abysmal. Yusuf noticed Cole and presented him to the group as their newest recruit who had triumphed in the competition. The protagonist mentioned witnessing their performance. He had to express his complete bewilderment at their utter incompetence during gameplay. One player became furious, questioning Cole's authority and right to criticize them so harshly. Since the protagonist had wounded his pride, Cole proposed a duel. Should he lose, departure from the team would follow, but victory would require the challenger to leave instead. Cole had barely entered before provoking them, yet only 3 responded. The remaining members lacked courage. Everyone assembled in the training area for combat. Apparently, they shared similar mindsets. The protagonist hoped they would not deactivate safety measures, claiming they would defeat him. Cole recommended maximizing the settings. Scott warned the protagonist to prepare carefully or face certain defeat. This was the same Scott who had performed poorly and fallen in their recent match. His abilities included a devastating charge, allowing rapid advancement while unleashing destructive energy. Scott possessed inferior statistics compared to show participants, clearly neglecting his training. His technique showed promise, but proper execution eluded him. The notion of these individuals achieving professional status seemed absurd. Cole and 3 opponents entered the virtual combat zone. As anticipated, Scott immediately charged into battle. Though, strangely, the opponent rushed past his target, causing the ground beneath to crumble. The wave's range exceeded Cole's expectations, truly impressive ability. The protagonist evaded using aerial movement. Scott would assume Cole was following his lead, prompting another charge with confident victory expectations. Events unfolded according to plan. Scott fell victim to the trap. 2 teammates arrived belatedly. Scott was already defeated. Who would challenge next? Cole cautioned that significant pain awaited them. The remaining players naturally suffered defeat. The protagonist reminded them of their agreement. Losers must depart from the squad. Cole instructed them to leave immediately. 2 departed with insults, but Scott remained standing. Cole reminded the apparently deaf player that departure time had arrived. The young man bit his lip and offered apologies. Cole had not anticipated this response. Scott apologized again, acknowledging his errors. Complete recognition of his mistakes followed, with pleas against expulsion. He demonstrated determination. Scott had failed against a newcomer who recently became a hunter. What reason existed for Cole to retain him? The player emphasized his valuable skill. The protagonist had certainly defeated him, yet this represented his greatest strength. Scott questioned whether this sufficed. The ability was genuinely powerful, Cole acknowledged. However, what significance did this hold? Proper utilization remained beyond his grasp. Furthermore, obedience to Cole seemed unlikely. Scott pledged complete compliance. Only permission to remain was requested. Cole demanded absolute obedience to his commands alone. Scott expressed confidence in his capabilities. The protagonist questioned the wisdom of this decision. Truthfully, the team consisted of inadequate players, and their recruitment budget was severely limited. Perhaps Scott could serve as an example for the others. From 7 members, Cole dismissed 2. Replacements were necessary. Emily possessed remarkable potential and would be ideal. However, she rejected his offer despite perfect contract terms. The defeat continued to sting. The young woman suggested he understand her position. Suddenly, Cole received an unexpected message. Freddie himself had sent it. Emily had informed him about the protagonist's recruitment efforts. Freddie was a star player from the Private Soul Academy's first team. Cole assumed his position there was secure. Such a turn of events would naturally be surprising. Freddie expressed interest in joining and promised academy discussions. Excellent developments. Strong performance yields rewards. If this player joins, success would be guaranteed. Another message arrived unexpectedly. This one came from someone completely unanticipated. Cole felt uncertain about managing these developments. Team construction requires ability synergy, which this squad completely lacked. Player statistics barely met minimum requirements, while synergy remained far from ideal. Stella possessed positional awareness abilities. Everything could function properly. Freddy exceeded the capabilities of the two who contacted Cole previously. This pace would carry them through the third league division. Adam expressed surprise at the protagonist's optimism regarding the new squad. How was this possible? Cole explained that each member was exceptional, crediting the chairman. Adam apologized for his inability to focus on team matters. He observed the protagonist's recruitment activities. The chairman never expected Cole would attract sponsors like Soul Workshop Moras. Every effort must be made to preserve the team. Adam then inquired about his desired squad type. Cole currently held two concepts. The first involved single-player focus, as the chairman might have envisioned. This approach was overly predictable. Adam recalled that teams relying on single tactics faced inevitable league failure. Therefore, Cole's second concept remained under development. However, Adam could describe it as detector strategy. The chairman was unfamiliar with this approach, but trusted the protagonist. Mr. Steinberg proceeded immediately to business. He transferred documents confirming complete team ownership transfer to Cole. The protagonist reviewed everything, finding it satisfactory, and wished to continue with business matters. Suddenly, Adam announced that the recent match concluded the season, and tomorrow featured a third Division League press conference. Cole now served as team executive director and must participate. Naturally, the protagonist would attend, having intended to handle other matters. Team leaders gathered in the studio. The atmosphere was incredibly dull. Not a single question followed the presentation. Cole introduced himself as Pair's new executive president and player. LTT held first place. They earned recognition through incredible teamwork and divisional dominance. However, rumors suggested many players planned advancement to the second division next season. LTT's director responded that departing players would be replaced with equally capable individuals. They also hoped to introduce hunters who could become rising stars. He should recall his audience. This coach appeared extremely familiar to Cole. Wait, this was Director Lee. The protagonist had history with him in a previous life. He had served as LTT's first division director and coach, now coaching in the third division. Brandon Lee had always appeared older, even previously. Discussions also covered the new LHR Hunter. The presenter questioned his third division appearance timeline. The coach nervously replied that no definitive answer could be provided, though they might expedite the process. This team was Freddy's intended destination. The most surprising news concerned the PER team. People learned that player Cole Phillips became team executive director. The protagonist confirmed this introduction. Such unprecedented cases of young players joining as both player and director were remarkable. Should dramatic team changes be expected? Cole confirmed this absolutely. Despite finishing without victories, tremendous changes awaited. The presenter requested hints about PER's current projects. Primarily, roster adjustments would occur, with Cole simultaneously playing and coaching. Strategy modifications and new sponsorship representation were also planned. Many developments were underway. The host intended to proceed with other topics, but Cole wished to add something. He had carefully observed divisional matches and, frankly, no team impressed him. The hall fell into solemn silence. This particularly angered Brandon. Cole warned everyone to stay alert. PER would defeat them all, especially LTD. It would be unfortunate if the top team lost to the bottom-ranked squad. This strategy should prove effective. Cole successfully generated excitement beyond the conference. The players arrived at PER headquarters. They had not met since the show. Derek expressed surprise. This was merely an ordinary house. Cole explained this was normal for smaller teams. Honestly, the protagonist had hoped Derek would contact him. though he never expected such enthusiasm, though no argument was needed here. Cole explained the team consisted of beginners, but this was worse than Freddie had imagined. Sean immediately stated the only reason for his agreement was the protagonist's promise to improve his rating for future team changes. Cole requested calm. He would not have called without a plan. True, this team had not won a single match last season, but that was not the issue. With these members, the roster was half complete. Prepare for takeoff. The players sincerely hoped their arrival was worthwhile and that Cole had a hidden advantage. ESP team manager Joseph Valtz contemplated that his players' skills were not lacking. They seemed to have forgotten how to achieve victory. Joseph considered solutions. Suddenly, a scream request arrived from PER. Screams were combat training focused on eliminations rather than objectives. Colleagues suggested ESP players should rest at season's end. Refusal would hardly create problems, but Joseph believed the only way to restore winning rhythm was through victories. Therefore, he contacted Coach Kim and agreed to participate. This would be interesting. ESP players questioned why they were playing screams, since they typically avoided them after seasons. However, they heard how PER's manager made his debut and insulted the entire league. He claimed LTD would be overthrown, yet would be unable to defeat even them. The team planned to show PER reality. Yusuf questioned Cole's certainty. He was just beginning to know everyone, and new participants lacked time for mutual familiarity. Cole mentioned insufficient players for 7 versus 7 scream format. The protagonist asked the coach to listen carefully. The team had no hope if circumstances remained unchanged. They would lose again and finish last in standings. Continuous failure repetition had created passive gameplay. However, the slightest victory opportunity would restore hope, and Cole would provide this chance. Perhaps his first performance, but his mere presence would transform the team. He would demonstrate they were no longer losers. So the protagonist entered the waiting area and encountered the ESP manager and coach. Yusuf observed the new president, or PER manager, unsure of proper address. Regardless, he introduced himself. Yusuf spoke dismissively, mockery evident in his expression. His underestimation of PER was immediately apparent and disrespectful. The match would commence shortly. Cole asked his teammates about their readiness. He would issue rescue commands, and teammates must obey him exclusively. Though Cole doubted perfect command execution, 5 original players plus himself as the new member would demonstrate victory potential with this composition. Scott would maintain vanguard position as before, but must await Cole's signal before advancing. If the protagonist did not say otherwise, remain stationary even if explosives approached. Stella would stay beside Cole. She must maintain pace at all costs. Derek inquired about his role. The protagonist instructed him to remain behind and stop approaching enemies. Derek assumed Cole excluded him from combat, but would witness everything firsthand. The match began on Imperial Bridge map. Combat would occur in confined space, preventing creative tactics. Stamina-based gameplay would determine the survivor. Joseph selected this map for strategic reasons. For a hastily assembled team, pairs formation appeared solid. Joseph attributed this to mere atmosphere since they lacked training time since their last match. They maintained formation only through stationary positioning, suggesting underlying strength. The manager and coach observed Cole instructing his team. Suddenly, they noticed the protagonist, a ranged fighter, had exposed himself, apparently distracted from position while monitoring others. ESP could not waste this opportunity and attempted to eliminate Cole. However, as one opponent prepared a spear attack, the protagonist escaped. This was not an error, but a calculated maneuver to provoke ESP. Joseph realized they were being manipulated. Pair employed strategy with the ranged player as centerpiece. Cole began shooting while the opposing team sheltered behind shields. However, they remained unaware that the protagonist fired mana-absorbing projectiles. Pair's score suddenly showed 7 points. These represented 7 eliminations. Thus, the match concluded with their victory. Joseph wondered why Cole had exposed himself. The strategy had succeeded. The manager admitted Pear's incredible performance. The team members could not believe their success. Such time had passed since their last victory. They assumed they were simply outmatched. Cole was pleased to hear his team had gained confidence and hope. Suddenly, Scott approached and asked how the protagonist had led them to victory. What was most crucial in formation combat? The young man knew maintaining formation was obviously important. Cole then asked how he planned to break enemy formations. Scott hesitated. The protagonist replied, either force them to separate or use overwhelming power like fingers crushing asphalt. Cole's explanation sounded obvious, yet Scott had never considered this approach. What had Cole done earlier? He forced opponents into battle and struck during positioning. That explained his exposure and self-sacrifice. Scott was probably amazed by such simple solutions. Freddy interjected. He noted that correct answers gain universal agreement when heard. He was most impressed by coordination, as if the team had practiced before his arrival. Actually, they had not. This resulted from Cole choosing the simplest formation. This was merely part of his plan. Freddy suggested continuing this strategy. With Derek and Shona, the team would grow stronger. The third division would be easily conquered. This would be ideal, but even the third division would present challenges. Cole replied that unfortunately this was impossible. Certainly, ESP had previously won often, but now they merely ranked ninth. The strategy would succeed against lower-ranked teams, but would likely fail against higher-ranked opponents. Furthermore, single strategy reliance would gradually reduce effectiveness. Sean then questioned their alternatives. He joined solely because he trusted Cole. A plan was essential. This was accurate. Unlike others, Sean came only because Cole promised future opportunities for better team contracts or prospects. Cole mentioned they still needed match strategies. Sean replied that players with strong skills were scarce. What strategies could they employ? The protagonist assured him that skills were not their only resource. He produced a mana bomb. They would utilize this. The team would be remembered when they became mana bombing experts. The protagonist wanted Freddy to master simultaneous sword control. The young man was shocked. Cole then asked if he truly disliked the training plan. Freddy explained that controlling multiple swords simultaneously would reduce accuracy. He was correct that effective enemy pressure through telekinesis made multiple swords impractical due to divided attention. However, Cole knew that in a previous life, Freddy had controlled at least 7 swords simultaneously. At high fencing levels, even 3 was possible. If Cole wanted rapid improvement, constant attention was necessary. This was not pointless, but if Freddy refused, it was unnecessary. The young man had joined only out of respect for Cole. The goal seemed achievable. Freddy sighed. Eventually, he realized this would be inevitable. He asked about the sword quantity. Cole smiled and showed 7. This would suffice. Next, Sean, the protagonist, wanted him to train precise projectile throwing. Greater accuracy was essential. However, the young man was somewhat confused. Using gravitational skills would not provide sufficient attack strength so cheaply. He requested Cole's plan explanation to determine feasibility. Perhaps disclosure was appropriate. The team would deploy bombs using Sean's ability, specifically mana bombs. Such was the plan. First, bombs would be attached to Freddy's swords, then using Sean's skill, bombs would be launched from flying swords. Sean and Freddy would function as artillery together. This was the new strategy Cole had mentioned. This was their path to victory. The protagonist called this Grenadier tactics. According to this strategy, Freddy would control multiple swords, each carrying mana bombs. Through Sean's gravity manipulation, the team would precisely target opponents with bombs. However, another puzzle piece was needed for complete functionality. Without understanding enemy positioning, significant damage would be impossible. Here, Stella entered, with her ability to determine precise enemy locations. She would need to use her ability to relay information to teammates. Cole placed his hand on her and explained her strategic importance. Without her assistance, others could not utilize bombs effectively. Cole asked if he could rely on her. The young woman turned away, agreeing reluctantly. Additionally, she blushed. Whatever was he thinking? The PR team was summoned for season-opening photography. Cole had already behaved boldly and hostilely at the conference, so restraint was advisable now. Suddenly, he overheard comments from another team's coach. The man suggested Cole needed maturity and experience, yet he himself was merely another child. The PR team currently resembled a barely stable house of cards. The host believed the PR team had something to contribute. They received no victories last season, so tactical changes seemed probable. Cole suddenly interrupted. He acknowledged his youth, but informed Mr. Yu that if Pear was defeated, only the man's age would remain. The presenter noted that tense team competition was genuinely entertaining to observe. Mr. Yu was overly talkative for an 8th-place team representative, slightly better than Pear. Cole would demonstrate their capabilities in the first match. Freddy questioned the protagonist's certainty, noting that strategies were not meant for secrecy. Even revealing them would not enable countermeasures. Freddy apparently believed they could easily defeat 8th place regardless. According to the plan, Cole would face most difficulties, but this was not what the team currently required. Freddy was the strategic key. The protagonist emphasized this importance. The young man promised maximum effort. Commencement was possible. 2 teams assembled at the stadium where Pear would display their full potential. Lower-ranked teams selected the arena. Pear ranked lower, making the choice theirs. They selected the simplest arena, City. Cole instructed Freddy and Stella to begin strategy implementation upon positioning. The others should maximize opponent eliminations or focus on survival. Stella positioned herself on the 23rd floor of an eastern border high-rise, waiting in the corner office. The young woman activated her skill and relayed opponent coordinates. On such arenas, her ability reached full potential. Cole rushed to a new location. Sean and Freddy had already reached their position. The team would now begin arena bombardment and building destruction. Cole would shoot emerging survivors. Any escapees must be confronted directly. Everyone was prepared. The protagonist's signal would initiate the charge launch. Ideally, Cole also occupied a high-rise position with his rifle. They commenced. Freddy's daggers flew, carrying mana bomb fragments. Mr. Yu instructed his student to exercise extreme caution in this match. Though Cole was skilled yet inexperienced, vigilance was advisable. Team leader Mark doubted special tactics were necessary against newcomers. They would simply execute standard procedures. Once enemies revealed themselves, he would use destructive displacement. Before recovery was possible, Mark could hardly wait to eliminate everyone simultaneously. However, daggers had reached their ambush location and the ceiling began trembling. Mark ordered shields raised upward. Previously, Cole had demolished buildings. The young man anticipated similar tactics. Apparently, the protagonist had again used ammunition cartridges. If so, Mark believed Cole had expended substantial mana. Suddenly, he spotted 3 additional daggers through the window. The team panicked. They faced telekinetic assault. Mark had not expected long-range attacks from Pear. He ordered sword raising and began deflecting Freddy's daggers. However, this was futile. Mana bombs scattered throughout the room and a massive explosion occurred. Meanwhile, Cole aimed from distance at fleeing opponents. Apparently, indoor entry was unnecessary. Opponents realized close combat survival against swords was impossible, so they attempted ranged attacks. But since Freddy controlled the swords, survival remained impossible. The Purple team scored 7 points and achieved victory. First Division LTD team manager Christopher never expected to witness this in a 3rd Division match. Cole had delivered a revolution. Even Brandon admitted this youngster exceeded mere talk. Christopher recalled Cole appearing on their recruitment list. However, he seemed firmly committed to the Per team. Linan had offered industry-leading contracts, yet he did not even consider them. Regret was now pointless. Christopher recommended informing the 2nd Division team members to contact him directly. Scott finds it impossible to accept what they accomplished. Cole informed Stella that this victory was merely their initial success and excessive celebration was unnecessary. An interview still awaited them. Most likely, Freddie would earn recognition as the match's standout performer. Therefore, they extended an invitation for him to visit the studio and respond to several inquiries. Freddie expressed gratitude to the host for the opportunity. Before this moment, their team had completed the entire season without achieving any wins. The interviewer requested details about their team's preparation methods for this game-changing match. Freddie responded that he simply executed the captain's directives. By captain, he referenced Cole, merely following his given orders. Their tactical approach generated significant online discussion. Numerous observers compared it to heavy artillery strikes. Freddie exclaimed that the captain had described this strategy precisely during his explanation. He states that Cole's plan functioned flawlessly, and he holds tremendous admiration for him. Throughout the entire interview, Freddie spoke exclusively about their leader. Derek observed that everything from his mouth sounded as though Cole led a religious following. Scott concurred. Such a role would be fitting for Mr. Phillips. The protagonist remained completely bewildered by the situation. He also showed embarrassment. Cole requested they address him by his regular name as always. Scott held seniority, making the formality confusing. Why had the teammate addressed him so formally? They were probably overly excited that their losing streak had ended. This squad would only grow more formidable. Per would claim the division championship. Derek was eating his noodles when he suddenly observed that Cole was preparing to leave somewhere. This seemed odd for a rest day. The protagonist explained he had an appointment. He instructed Derek not to remain idle. Despite the weekend, competition season continued. Cole departed. The teammate finished his meal and it was time for cereal cheeky. Meanwhile, their leader arrived at the Hunters League Stadium to meet Michael, a person with 2 tickets. Spectators were already being admitted to the venue. Entry was possible. An enormous crowd had assembled today. The pair found their seats. Michael suspected that Cole had attended matches previously because he appeared comfortable in this environment. Indeed, the protagonist had practically resided here once. Cole mentioned that despite playing in the 3rd division, he had been a professional player. Michael was pleased to see him. Though it was the weekend, he remained concerned that the protagonist might have other commitments. Cole appreciated the invitation. Today's contest featured Korea versus Japan. The Japanese team typically emerged victorious. The protagonist questioned whether attending this particular match was worthwhile. Michael reminded him this was still his native country. Understood, but Japan generally maintained dominance, even though the Korean national squad possessed the finest talents from the 1st division. Cole seemed somewhat dissatisfied with Korea's circumstances, but these were the current realities. Michael explained that Korean players faced more than just skill or statistical deficiencies. He desired Cole to witness this competition because someday he would need to perform on this stage. When that moment arrived, Michael wanted the protagonist to remember him. He maintained a friendship with the Japanese national team player. He offered to arrange a conversation with him following the match. It appeared Michael held great expectations for Cole. The protagonist should observe closely what would unfold before him. Regrettably, Japan ultimately won by a substantial margin. Now Michael was calling to meet his friend. The person seemed indifferent to the outcome. However, Cole was certain he felt disappointed. They waited in the hallway until they finally heard approaching footsteps. This was Takumi Minomino, a player from Japan's national team. Michael embraced his longtime friend. They had not met for an extended period. Takumi believed Michael should have visited with players from his own team. Nevertheless, he preferred not to think about them. He claimed this generation was already beyond hope and placed faith in the next. He introduced Cole to Takumi, Japan's most renowned and aggressive long-range combatant. Michael explained that their protagonist had only recently debuted in Korea and was a rising talent in whom he had significant plans. Michael had constantly spoken to Takumi about Cole, making him curious to meet. The Japanese player asked whether their protagonist would be willing to test his abilities. Michael suggested first consulting Cole directly. The protagonist could not recall anything about Takumi Minomino. Apparently, he was not from his generation's team. Regardless, his statistics should be impressive. Among Takumi's abilities were rapid fire, weakness detection, which inflicted double damage when striking the same location, and speed enhancement. Cole should not decline combat with Japan's most famous daggers specialist. Consequently, he agreed with enthusiasm. Takumi noted that he seemed to possess courage. Cole assured him that was not his only attribute. The Korean team's leader was in despair. He believed they understood the strength gap. The national coach stated that improvement remained substantial, and they had come within millimeters of 3 eliminations. However, the leader was dissatisfied that they had given the coach their best effort, and this was all he could extract from it. If this pattern continued, Korea would cease participating in competitions. The leader departed. The coach felt dejected. Suddenly, he recalled that Christopher had gone to scout the 2nd and 3rd divisions. He inquired whether the director had discovered anyone in the recent LTD. Discoveries were made, but they were not LTD team players. For instance, Freddy. If he could recruit him along with that young person who controlled gravity, they would have become trump cards. Or perhaps the next generation star Cole. Maybe this was what the nation needed at the moment. Someone like their protagonist. Although Christopher wondered they were all merely youngsters from the 3rd division. Meanwhile, Cole and Takumi were preparing for virtual combat. Michael thought Takumi's enthusiasm was not encouraging. He remained the same as in those days when they played together on the national team. He claimed this was a test, but in reality he simply wanted to engage in battle. Michael requested gentleness with Cole. Takumi understood nonetheless. Their protagonist was only a youth from the 3rd division. He promised not to exert 100% effort. Cole released a chuckle. Michael thought he and Takumi were sizing each other up. So the Japanese player was already on the battlefield. The arena was Void Plaza. He wondered why this particular arena. This was a unique space where wormhole mechanics functioned. Due to numerous unpredictable elements, no one typically selected it in league play. Perhaps Cole wanted to disrupt Takumi's rhythm with an unusual arena. This was an exceptional instance when 2 long-range fighters met in solo combat. Typically, they maintained rear positions and dealt damage to enemy front lines. Incidentally, Cole had never lost to another ranged fighter in single combat. He remembered every wormhole on this map, their locations and destinations. This meant that while the protagonist knew his opponent's position, he could reach him from any point. Cole fired so the projectile would pass through the wormhole from Takumi's location. The Japanese player noticed and instantly relocated using acceleration. The bullet struck the nearby wall. However, had Takumi been even a fraction of a second slower, Cole realized the flight path had shifted due to wormhole vibration. Takumi had no understanding of how the protagonist determined his location, but Cole fired with clear knowledge of his position. Using wormholes for shooting was impressive for a newcomer from the 3rd division. He became interested and began firing using rapid fire and weakness detection. Takumi thought that once he demolished all walls, he and Cole would face each other directly, and everything would conclude. The protagonist understood that the opponent was destroying walls from positions unreachable through wormholes. The difference in their statistics was enormous. Takumi demolished walls with the intention of crushing Cole purely through statistical superiority. Michael watched the battle intently without looking away. He had not expected their protagonist to land the first strike. His concentration was interrupted by someone's arrival. This was Elijah, a Korean national team player. They had not seen each other for a considerable time. Michael expressed sympathy regarding today's match. Elijah was surprised to see Takumi from the Japanese team on screen. He asked who was opposing him. Michael replied that this was a rising star he had his eye on and who was performing better than anticipated. Elijah was quite surprised. He would have heard of their protagonist if Michael was his mentor. He was even more astonished that this person was a beginner who had only debuted in the 3rd division. In any case, he appeared formidable. In single combat with Takumi, the outcome seemed obvious. Anyway, Elijah asked something else. Why Michael had not come to see them, many had missed him. If he had appeared before the match, it would have boosted the national team's morale. Michael said nothing, and then Elijah positioned himself in front of the screen. Michael rudely told him to move aside, saying this match was more important than the league. The person was stunned by such words. He thought the battle with Takumi had long concluded. However, he was shocked when he saw Cole on screen, standing over the powerless Japanese player. Previously, Takumi had destroyed all walls, but their protagonist remained confident. The Japanese player decided this was his limit and fired at him. Nevertheless, Cole evaded without significant difficulty. The ambush failed for Takumi, but time remained on his side. He needed to destroy the nearest wormhole and execute his next attack. But before he could act, Cole began shooting. This was a barrage of fire. Wormholes altered the bullet's direction. Takumi could not dodge this assault. Therefore, he quickly erected a shield. However, under pressure from so many projectiles, it shattered into fragments. At that moment, the delayed attack reached him. This was Takumi's end. In his previous existence, Cole was accustomed to answering one question, the question of what was needed to become a skilled player. The protagonist always answered, experience. More specifically, the experience of winning. Takumi was reviewing the battle. Michael bombarded him with questions about what had occurred. He replied that Michael had unleashed a monster from its leash. That was what had happened. So Cole had indeed triumphed through experience alone, and this was not mere luck. Takumi did not know when their protagonist would step onto the world stage, but when that happened, he would have a fan base comparable to Eaton's. Cole returned to his base. Yesterday's match had been interesting. Takumi was a ranged fighter with sufficient power to break through walls. Regardless, their protagonist had not doubted his victory. Because in the past, when circumstances were unfavorable, he had paid special attention to duels. His opponent had looked capable, even despite the defeat. Derek called Cole. He asked what he had done yesterday that had been shown on the news. In the recent interview, Takumi Minomino had expressed great hopes for the rising Korean star. More precisely, for Cole Phillips, a player from the 3rd League Division. The Japanese team member had said this himself. To this, the protagonist replied that he had attended yesterday's match. Michael had invited him. Derek did not understand how long they had been acquainted. Now they were convinced that Cole had actually fought with Takumi yesterday and hoped the protagonist had obtained an autograph. They were amazed on the spot when Cole said they had dueled and he had won. The reaction was naturally intense. Probably no other response was possible. On paper, Takumi was stronger than the protagonist and his skill was superior. But regarding experience, Cole was unmatched. He had spent so much time in the game that it would be strange if the protagonist did not know everything, even minor details of the maps. Although if his trajectory calculations had been even slightly slower, the situation could have taken a different turn. Suddenly, Freddy said he had known from the beginning. They simply needed to listen to Cole. The protagonist was not sure whether this person always had such sparkling eyes. Derek added that it was necessary to at least contact him. He would have made several strikes and swung his sword. Cole told him to stop. This could have been possible if Derek was at his peak capabilities, but now he had no chance. So the all-seeing eye of the protagonist had improved. This was probably due to the fact that he had used it at maximum during the duel with Takumi. Determining enemy abilities and trajectory analysis, one could not devise better abilities for training the team. It was time to take work seriously. Cole told Yusuf about his plans for ranked matches. The protagonist asked the coach's opinion about the current situation. They had started the season with a victory, so the team had raised their fighting spirit and was motivated for subsequent wins. Yusuf thought they should simply continue. So far, they did not have many strategies, but there was a guarantee of victory. No, Cole did not agree with him completely. This was insufficient. What alternatives existed if the Grenadier strategy did not work? If the protagonist did not carry the team alone, this was guaranteed defeat. If the strategy failed, they were left without options, so they needed to either improve it or develop a new one or strengthen the team's foundation. At the moment, personal growth of each team member was needed, so they would begin with ranked games. Cole gathered Derek, Freddie, and Stella. They had already heard everything from the coach, but Derek thought that instead of ranked games, it was better to focus on team play. The protagonist said that individual growth should be higher than team performance. Otherwise, there was no point in fighting as a team. Everyone would play ranking games, after which they would analyze them with the coach. Later, Cole came to observe but did not expect to see such a crowd. Perhaps a famous player had appeared. Ben Stone, a short-range combat tank who would later become known as a night fighter, and Caitlin Beetle's serial demolition. Ben rushed through acceleration, but Caitlin dodged with her great firepower. She detonated a mana bomb with her skill, turning it into an explosion catalyst. It seemed that Ben wanted to reduce the distance to avoid mana bomber attacks. Caitlin was in a dangerous position, but she defeated Ben again and won the battle. She dominated the entire match despite the fact that the opponent had a higher rank. However, Cole would not say so. If Ben had figured out the mana bomber when he rushed forward or found another opportunity to approach Caitlin, then he would have emerged victorious. Ranked games were a place where the specific situation of two classes and player choice held the greatest significance. For those who watched inattentively, everything appeared as though Caitlin dominated the entire match. But in reality, she walked on a knife's edge. The woman left and asked the protagonist about his division, team, and ranking. Caitlin must have heard his analysis. Cole replied, "Third Division, PER team, rating of 1,000. She grinned and departed, saying she had almost gotten angry with a beginner. If she had known that once he was in first place. Freddie's match was soon, so Cole should go. But he did not understand why Caitlin was following him. Many hunters had peculiarities in their heads, and she seemed to be special as well. Stella was already in the match. As Cole had thought, the duels were difficult for her. In the Hunters Union Training Center, players from all divisions participated, and she was among the weakest. The woman was very surprised when she discovered that Cole was watching. He said that she lacked extensive experience with archery. Stella had several skills: positional caution, runaway fire that increased shooting rate, and as a potential skill, binding, which temporarily immobilized living targets in established locations. The protagonist had not expected, and this skill was even ranked. She would be an ordinary ranged fighter. He would teach her to charge arrows with mana or recognize retreat paths, but because of her skills, this was impossible. Cole thought it was better for her to use her skill than bows to be support that stayed behind comrades' backs and not among those on the front lines. But Stella did not think she could accomplish something with only one skill. Now, of course, yes. However, when binding was revealed, she would be able to stop opponents even outside the visibility zone. It remained only to reveal this ability. Well, they were not in a hurry. Cole placed his hand on her shoulder and said that she was already a wonderful addition to the team, a radar indicating the path, allowing him to make critical interceptions. But of course, this did not mean that training was unnecessary. Stella blushed again. Cole sent her to the training field. A 5-minute survival assignment awaited her. Stella knew he was watching and asked what he wanted. Not that she could now hear his answer. The woman was attacked by dozens of scorpions. The capabilities of the Association Center were not limited to ordinary arenas or standard gyms. There was still a special zone for training, a dungeon created for developing intelligence skills, specifically for scouts. There was no better place to unlock Stella's potential. Cole wanted her to train all day. Meanwhile, Caitlin continued to pursue him. Hunters were strange types. Scott lost in the match and was upset when he realized that the coach and Cole had seen everything. The protagonist told the person not to be nervous. He thought he had the greatest potential. Scott had strong ability and outstanding physical attributes. His problem was only that he did not understand when to use his abilities. Also lacking finesse, Cole wanted the person to concentrate on learning and examine replays of players with his style. For example, Ben, a tank with 4,813 points, and so that their protagonist could be sure that Scott had learned something. He expected analytical reports from him for each match. The ratings of Freddy and Sean were quite high. Well, Derek's was also decent in principle. It seemed he also wanted to advance as he asked to give him some special tactics. Cole thought he could use his effect on weapons. It remained to understand how to make it functional. That woman seemed to have finally departed. It was unclear why she had even pursued the protagonist. Oddly enough, Caitlin was in good spirits today. She had managed to defeat Ben. He was a difficult opponent in this form of match. In addition, she met Cole, a player from the 3rd Division who had defeated Takumi. She followed him, hoping to see him in action. However, Cole was only engaged in training his team, boring. And frankly, Caitlin thought his team was terrible. She seemed to have nothing to worry about. The protagonist and his team again demonstrated their Grenadier tactics. She wondered if there was a team that could surpass it. After the match, Stella continued to train, and Cole carefully observed the process. From the season's beginning, the team had been conducting a series of victories, but there was no guarantee this would continue until the very end. Their next enemy was formidable, the first strong team the players would encounter. Suddenly, Yusuf approached Cole with words that they should focus on training for this match. It was unclear to him why their protagonist made Stella do this. Cole had given her the task of catching a monster or minion alive in hopes this would awaken her ability. But the protagonist could not simply tell Yusuf. Therefore, he said that Stella needed to improve her survival. For this, it was important to increase mobility. But even more important was to improve her understanding of how the enemy thinks during offense. Cole trained her to think like an attacker, bringing understanding of ideal ambush points and strategies to eliminate the enemy. It seemed that Yusuf genuinely believed in it. Meanwhile, the monster destroyed Stella's trap, and finally, in a stressful situation, her binding skill manifested. The woman fell to the ground from confusion about what had just happened. Cole waited. It looked like their match would lead them to victory. Per and LTD managers at a press conference for an interview. Per had shown with the storm this season with their new strategy. The presenter asked Brandon if his team was ready to resist. He confidently confirmed. People might think it was unreasonable to reveal this. But honestly, Brandon doubted that the PER team could accomplish anything regardless. In the next match, LTD would have a new player. Very interesting because their team rarely changed composition. Fans were unable to find out who the new member was. The press conference concluded on this note. See you on the stage. Cole was trying to find out who the new LTD member was. Unfortunately, he did not remember any of their previous composition. Derek approached, thinking the protagonist was watching leaked video of the newcomer. Cole said not to bother. LTD was not foolish enough to allow them to leak their trump card. However, Derek spoke seriously and pointed to the screen. This was Levi Stark. Their protagonist had not expected to see him so early. In a past life, when Cole was influential, Levi was the first to come after him. If described in one sentence, then he was support that exceeded ranged fighters. His ability was an S-rank skill. He could single-handedly destroy entire strategies. The match had already begun. Cole told his team they would use Grenadier tactics. This time, he said to scatter bombs as soon as 3 or more gathered. It was necessary to eliminate as many rivals as possible before they assembled all together. As soon as the mana bombs ended, Freddy and Sean should join the main detachment. Stella asked what she should do. Cole told her just to wait. The team gathered, and she said that enemies were assembling in a building in the arena's south. He thought they should blow it up. Potentially, everyone could be killed at once. But Cole said to attack before they all gathered. Therefore, Freddy immediately took the coordinates, and he launched his daggers with attached bombs. They fell and killed 2 members from the enemy team who fled to teammates. All other enemies were in the southern building. Cole's team was assembled. It looked like they would pass with ease. LTD had nothing special. Freddy said that enemies were grouped, so he did not think one mana bomb was sufficient. Time to play trump cards. Cole said to drop bombs. The siege detachment would go inside before the dust settled. Their protagonist knew Levy's ability and how he could counter their plan, but the team should see it with their own eyes. They must understand that each strategy had a limited usage limit. Freddy launched daggers, however. The bombs simply exploded in mid-air. Yes, it was Levy, as Cole had expected. Adam was now in deep thought. Levy was an ordinary boy who lived with his parents in the tower's safe zone. So it was until monsters burst into their lives. The chairman had taken him in many years ago. Then Levy shouted that he wanted to take revenge on the monsters. He devoted himself to training to achieve this goal. But before he became ready, the last dungeon with monsters was cleared. Having no reason for anger, Levy plunged into depression's abyss and left Adam. The chairman could not understand where he had gone. He would never have thought he would join LTD. Of all people, he would play against Cole. This battle was as interesting to Adam as to anyone else. This was quite important for him. Derek was worried about the explosion, but the protagonist reassured him. He said not to panic because of every small thing. The team had already eliminated 2 with Mana Bomb's help. Now the situation was 5 against 7. Per had an advantage, so they adhered to the plan. Cole told Sean and Freddy to join him and Stella to wait. The team broke into the building where the opponent team hid. Cole did not want this to develop into direct confrontation. Freddy began the attack first, surprisingly tactical for a 3rd Division team. Levy realized that Sean and Freddy wanted to corner him. Unfortunately, so many people would not be enough. Levy jumped on air-step platforms and Freddy tried to reach him. But then Levy released his pulse, which knocked down everyone around. The team could not stand on their feet. Objects were falling. Levy admitted that PER was not bad, but in comparison with Adam, they were nothing. The result was expected. Like always, Grenadier strategy was all they had. Meanwhile, Derek attacked one of the enemies. However, while he was distracted, he was immobilized by another person. Thus, Derek was eliminated from the game. He was eliminated by a sword strike. Levy thought it would be easy, but he forgot about Cole. It turned out the platforms were not scattered randomly. The protagonist had done everything to shoot as accurately as possible. Levy quickly hid behind the wall. He thought Cole was as good as he was, if not better. That person with the sword tried to knock the gun from their protagonist's hands, but everything was useless. Thus, out of 4, only 3 remained. With Sean, fortunately, everything was fine. He thanked the protagonist for buying some time. 2 enemies remained outside. Cole asked Freddy and Sean to handle them, and their protagonist would meet Levy face to face. It was time to finish this battle. The commentator said that entering enemy territory seemed deadly, but Cole, with his skill, proved the opposite. Their protagonist had already surprised the audience in scrimmages, training games, and real matches. But he first demonstrated such overwhelming force in direct duel. However, his opponent could not be underestimated. It was difficult to say who was stronger from this pair. Cole might have killed 2 LTD members, but this did not mean much in one-on-one battle. Despite his mobility, if Levy could predict movements, the pulse skill guaranteed victory. In other words, everything came down to battle of minds. In this case, the more experienced would win. Cole had only recently become a player. Adam was interested in whether he could win. 3-time champion of the International Hunters League. 3-time winner of the Interseason Championship. 8 Most Valuable Player Awards. 4 victories in the All-Star match, and 2 victories in smaller tournaments. These were all Cole's past achievements for which he felt pride. When it came to understanding the game, the protagonist did not think anyone could surpass him, so the duel was in full swing. Levy admitted that Cole was good, but how would he cope with his pulse? Everything began to shake. In this condition, the protagonist would not withstand this. In that case, he would eliminate Levy right now. But it seemed his training with Adam had not been in vain. He gathered mana while evading bullets. In any way, he wanted to knock out Cole in midair. Then the protagonist told Stella to be ready. Air currents would give Levi his next step. As soon as he stopped using the skill, Stella bound his hand. The person had not gained enough mana and was now immobilized. If Cole gave him a chance to escape, his reputation as the legendary sniper would be lost. And these were the last thoughts before the protagonist finally shot the person. Levi fell. The match was won by the PER team. Adam was amazed. He had no idea that Stella possessed this ability. Cole knew how to achieve success. Suddenly, someone called the chairman at such a time. This person was interested in whether Adam had seen the match. Of course, yes, Cole was like a splinter for him. The man on the other end of the wire agreed. Their protagonist was better than Levi. And suddenly he told Adam to bring Cole somehow. His daughters really enjoyed watching the match. Strange. Eliza had never shown interest in lower divisions. What had gotten into her head? In the locker room, Freddie passionately typed on his phone the story of how Cole heroically defeated the LTD team. He approached and hit the person on the head, asking what he was doing. Judging by silence, Freddie would probably continue writing as soon as Cole turned away. The protagonist was chosen as the match's most valuable player and was told to prepare for an interview. The host said it was a truly phenomenal match and asked if Cole had expected this victory. The answer was, of course, the audience had apparently already forgotten what he said at the season's beginning. The protagonist had claimed that none of the teams would stand and teams from the top of the list would be insulting. The host remembered. This press conference then brought a stir, and now they will look at the match's best moment and discuss it. The best, according to the audience, was when Levi was bound and Cole shot him. The protagonist was asked to tell what he thought at that moment and whether the duel was initially planned. Was it worth telling the truth or embellishing a little? It would be more interesting if he coolly dismissed the opponent. Levi was upset anyway. In a past life, the situation was tense with every victory. Therefore, Cole said he was always ready for the fact that a duel could happen, so there was nothing unexpected. But he was forced to admit that the enemy team's headliner, what was his name? The presenter in panic and whisper corrected, saying the person's name was Levi, so Cole considered the trap mediocre. He easily fell directly into the trap, but this was not his failure. Just Cole was too good. The person was beside himself with anger. Now Levi would form the first impression of their protagonist. He probably went too far. And this was fine because this should be an interview. The host recalled, that press conference created quite a commotion. Now they will examine the match's highlight and analyze it. The finest moment, according to viewers, was when Levi became restrained and Cole fired at him. The protagonist was requested to share his thoughts at that instant and whether he had initially planned the confrontation. Should he reveal the truth or add some flair? It would be more engaging if he dismissively handled his adversary. Levi felt frustrated regardless. In his former life, tension arose with each triumph. Thus, Cole stated he remained constantly prepared for potential duels. Nothing caught him off guard. However, he felt compelled to acknowledge that the opposing team's star player, whatever his name was. The interviewer frantically whispered a correction, mentioning the individual's name was Levi. Therefore, Cole deemed the ambush subpar. He walked straight into the snare. Yet, this wasn't his shortcoming. Cole simply excelled too much. The individual seethed with rage. Now Levi would develop his initial opinion of their protagonist. Perhaps he had gone overboard. This was acceptable, since interviews should have this quality.